Chapter 762. Who do you think you are? Do you think the tough king is someone you can see whenever you want? The warriors of the tough king surrounded them, led by that creepy long-haired middle-aged man. Asking you to go see the tough king is for your own good. After so many days, Yi Chun had pretty much figured out the situation in the Black Mountain area. This tough king might not be the most powerful warrior on the number 3 devouring island, but he was indeed the most brutal one. Otherwise, he would not have collected so many Zhen Yuan crystals. Brat, you are looking for death. Seeing Yi Chun being this arrogant, the warriors of the tough king who were used to being aggressive could not handle it anymore. Shoo! Shoo! 4 late Sea of Souls realm warriors jumped out, attacking toward Yi Chun and Murong Qingqing together. Yi Chun did not even need to take out his sword. He just threw out a sword finger attack. Pooh! 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 Even if it was only one sword finger attack, it was still not something the 4 could handle. They were all blown away like broken bags. Impressive! Kill these bastards who eat people without spitting out their bones. Within this short period of time, a lot of people had already surrounded them. Seeing that Yi Chun was only at peak level late Sea of Souls realm, but could beat 4 warriors of the tough king with one attack, they could not be happier. Brat, no wonder you are so arrogant. You do have some tricks up your sleeves. The creepy middle-aged man squinted his eyes, a cold light flashing in his eyes. He waved his hand, signaling all of his warriors to attack. Kill. Die. To be able to be the warriors of the tough king, they had to be at least mid-Sea of Souls realm. Dozens of warriors with mid-Sea of Souls realm and above jumped toward Yi Chun, their killing intent intense. Unfortunately, Yi Chun's power was way below his, and he was the kind of warrior who could fight beyond his realm. Therefore, the result was already decided from the very beginning. Seeing his warriors being blown away while puking out blood, the middle-aged man finally lost his cool. His body flashed once as he threw out a claw attack toward Yi Chun's head. That sharp claw power seemed like it was going to scratch through Yi Chun's head and body. That kind of power was not something normal people could compete with. Chi. The cold-looking middle-aged man's attack was fast, but Yi Chun's attack was even faster. His arm moved and his sword finger pressed against the cold-looking middle-aged man's neck. The cyan finger light flickered, and as long as the cold-looking middle-aged man moved a little closer, the finger light would immediately pierce through his throat. You didn't die because the rules here don't allow it, and also because I want you to bring a message. Yi Chun sneered. Cold sweat appeared on the middle-aged man's forehead. Yi Chun's attacking speed was way too fast, and he did not even see how Yi Chun attacked. It was not until he felt a slight chill on his throat that he realized that Yi Chun had already attacked. If it were not for him stopping his body in time, he would have been killed on the spot. Of course, even if the cold-looking middle-aged man wanted to die, Yi Chun wouldn't let him die by his hands. He wasn't that stupid. Withdrawing his sword fingers, Yi Chun said, "Let the tough king talk to me. You'll regret this." The eerie middle-aged man took a deep breath and said slowly as he hurriedly retreated a dozen steps. That would depend on whether the tough king is capable enough. Yi Chun's tone was indifferent. Let's go. The middle-aged man brought his wounded warriors and left. The cave that the tough king was staying in was huge. There were no other caves within 300 meters of it. Inside the living room, the tough king looked at the middle-aged man with a dark expression. You mean, not only is he not going to hand over the Zhen Yuan crystals, he wants to see me? Yes. Besides that, he has also wounded our people. The middle-aged man lowered his head. An evil light flashed in the tough king's eyes. It seems like my title is not cruel enough after all. Even the people in the Black Mountain area don't like me. Bring me over. I will let him know what regret feels like. The Black Mountain area was not that big. Within half a pot of tea's time, the tough king had brought a group of people over. That evil Chi had scared a lot of people out of their wit. The tough king is here. I wonder how he is going to handle this. This is so unwise. Our number 3 devouring island only has 20 half-step king warriors. Even if the tough king is not in the top 3, he would at least be in the top 5. Some of the leaders of the dark power groups are only at peak level late seas of Soul's realm. Perhaps he is one of the martial geniuses from some big power group. He is used to being on top. Everyone started to discuss. Who are you? Tell me your name. Floating in the air, the tough king looked down at Yi Chen and said with a low voice. Yi Chen, you must be the tough king, right? Yi Chen lifted up his head and said lightly. Since you know, why don't you kneel down and beg for mercy? Yi Chen sneered. You do not deserve it. You are looking for death. The warriors that the tough king had brought were furious. All right, you have guts. But, the more guts you have, the more miserable I will make you. Kuei Feng, test him out for me. An evil look flashed through his eyes as the tough king said to the middle-aged man on his left. Yes. The middle-aged man's body flashed. 1 turned into 2, 2 turned into 4, 4 turned into 8. All of a sudden, he turned into 8 phantoms that looked both real and fake at the same time, surrounding Yi Chen. Wind profound. No, there is also a hint of shadow profound. Yi Chen was a bit surprised. The middle-aged man's cultivation was the same as his, only peak level late seas of Soul's realm. But, since he was valued by the tough king, then he must have something special about him. Judging from his movement art, it was indeed very powerful. Normally, it would be hard for a movement art to combine different profound, but this man had done it. I have wounded a half-step king warrior before. I hope you can last a little longer. Kuei Feng cracked a smile that was full of cruelty. Being able to wound half-step king warrior. With your cultivation, it is not bad. Yi Chen would not be scared by his words. Not to mention the fact that he could wound half-step king warrior, even if he could kill him, so what? HM? Are you being arrogant or do you have something else to rely on? Kuei Feng was a bit hesitant after seeing Yi Chen's expression. He could wound half-step king warrior with his peak level late seas of Soul's realm cultivation, which meant that his power was way beyond warriors at the same level. Being able to become half-step king warriors meant that they were all extremely talented. But, he did not seem to be surprised at all. Kuei Feng, what are you hesitating for? The tough king was getting impatient. Yes. Kuei Feng took a deep breath as his eyes turned sharp. Tornado kill. Shoo. 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 8 shadows seemed to have been activated at the same time, flying around Yi Chen like an extremely powerful tornado, trying to kill Yi Chen. Shoo. 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 The tornado was getting thinner and thinner as Kuei Feng attacked. Once he attacked, cold stars flashed everywhere, and the whole tornado seemed to be spinning like a blade. Being in the middle of the tornado, Yi Chen looked calm as he lifted up his right sword finger and pointed it out. Chin. As the sparks flew everywhere, a beam of cold light flew out of the tornado. Then, the tornado stopped. What? Kuei Feng lost? When the tornado stopped, everyone was dumbfounded. In the field, Kuei Feng's right hand was bleeding as it was held there stiffly. On the other hand, Yi Chen did not even change his posture. He had only lifted up one of his hands and pointed his sword finger at Kuei Feng's forehead. One could vaguely see that sharp sword-like finger light. How is this possible? Not only did the others not believe it, even Kuei Feng himself could not believe it. While moving at a high speed, 8 of him attacked at the same time. He thought that he would be able to beat Yi Chen with one attack. However, he did not expect that not only could Yi Chen tell his real body, but he had also knocked away the short blade in his hand with one finger. No matter if it was observation, attacking power, or accuracy, Yi Chen was a few times better than him. Beating Kuei Feng with one attack? Could it be that he had trained some kind of secret skill? The tough king did not think that Kuei Feng would be able to beat Yi Chen. He only wanted to test out Yi Chen's power. However, He did not expect that Kuei Feng would be defeated in one attack. Of course, this did not mean that Yi Chen's power was much more powerful than Kuei Feng's. It could only mean that Yi Chen's fighting skills were way better than Kuei Feng's. However, when the power gap was too big, no matter how good one's skills were, it would be useless. With good skills, could he break through the defense? With good skills, could he dodge the ultimate attack? Neither. Only when the power gap was not that big would it be useful. Impressive. But your good luck ends here. The tough king jumped into the air and threw out a punch at Yi Chen. That punch was thrown out like a shooting star, but it was also like lava. It made people feel like they were facing a disaster. This tough king's power is almost the same as Qing Lu Sr. Yi Chen could tell with one glance that the martial art that the tough king had performed contained the fire and earth profound. Of course, the combination of the fire and earth profound would have different effects for different people. Boom! Yi Chen still did not take out his sword. He pointed out with his sword finger and a thunderball was formed. It attacked towards the tough king, exploding with an extremely hot and violent chi flow. He blocked it. The tough king did not believe it. His fists were like a shooting star shower as they attacked towards Yi Chen. Each punch was fiercer than the previous one. He did not believe that Yi Chen would be able to handle it. Boom, 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 boom. The sound of chi clashing continued. The mud on the island had been scraped open, but Yi Chen did not back out even half a step. It is my turn now. Chin. Yi Chen took out his Thunder Disaster sword. The sword light flashed once before stabbing out. Too fast. I cannot dodge it. The tough king was shocked. He realized that no matter how hard he tried to dodge, he could not avoid that sword attack. It was indeed unbelievably fast. It was indeed Yi Chen's spiritual sword attack. Once it was performed, even top half-step king warriors would not be able to dodge it. Even if I cannot dodge it, so what? Break through my protective Zhen Yuan first. The tough king screamed in his mind. Shoo! The spiritual sword attack was not only fast, but its attacking power was also horrifying. It had only paused for a second before it pierced through the tough king's protective Zhen Yuan and landed heavily on his chest. Pooh! Puking out a mouthful of blood, the semi-extreme rank great armor on the tough king's chest was slightly twisted. He then puked out a mouthful of blood as he was blown backward with a pale face. Even the tough king has lost. Who is this guy? People in the Black Mountain area had seen way too many confident people, but all of them had been beaten by the tough king without exception. The appearance of Yi Chen was like the sun after the rain, tearing apart the clouds and shining down. This Black Mountain area is going to change soon. A lot of people thought to themselves, take out all of their storage rings. Yi Chen was not a good person, and he wanted to leave the devouring island as well. Naturally, he would not show any mercy to these dark power groups. So, he asked Murong Qingqing to take out all of their storage rings. Don't push it too far. The tough king's followers were shocked, but they still tried to sound tough. Yi Chen said, don't force me. Although you can't kill people on the devouring island, it doesn't say that you can't cripple people. If I cut off one of your arms, you can still make Zhen Yuan crystals. So, don't force me. Chapter 763. Murong Qingqing went to get the storage rings of the tough king's followers. As for the tough king, Yi Chen would take care of him. Brat, if you do not want to die, I suggest you not to even think about Zhen Yuan crystals. It is not like this has never happened before. There have been people who were more powerful than you before. But as long as they thought about Zhen Yuan crystals, none of them would have a good ending. The tough king said with a cold tone. Are you trying to scare me? Yi Chen smiled lightly, his eyes sharp like blades. Feeling the intense killing intent coming from Yi Chen, the tough king did not dare to be too arrogant. He said, I am not trying to scare you, but only a small part of the Zhen Yuan crystals that we collect belong to us. Most of them have to be handed over. As for who to hand over to, you should be clear about it. The Tough King was one of the top 5 warriors on the number 3 Devouring Island, so the Zhen Yuan crystals he collected were divided in a ratio of 20 to 80. 20% would go to the Tough King's power, and 80% to the Blackwater Alliance. For example, the Black Mountain region could collect about 2,400 Zhen Yuan crystals every month, so 20% would be 480 crystals, which was not a small amount. For some of the weaker regions, the ratio would be 10 to 90% or 5 to 95%. This month, the Tough King had already collected a lot of Zhen Yuan crystals. If all of them were taken by Yi Chen, then he would not be able to hand over 80% of them to the Blackwater Alliance. Then, the Blackwater Alliance would definitely come to Yi Chen. Don't worry, I will talk to the Blackwater Alliance. How could Yi Chen not think of that? Although he knew that the Tough King was the leader of the underground power in the Black Mountain region, and that he would have a lot of Zhen Yuan crystals, when Yi Chen opened the Tough King's storage ring, he was still shocked. The Tough King's Zhen Yuan crystals filled up a small box. Roughly speaking, there should be no less than 5,000 of them. On the Crystal Island, 5,000 low-rank Zhen Yuan crystals were equivalent to 500 million top-rank soul stones. The Tough King's face was extremely ugly. There were a total of 5,400 Zhen Yuan crystals in the box, and only 600 of them had just been collected. The remaining 4,800 were his own, and these 4,800 were his own. These 4,800 were his own, and these 4,800 were his own. On the Devouring Island, half-step king warriors would have to hand in 100 Zhen Yuan crystals per month, and half-step king warriors would be able to make around 130 to 140 crystals per month. The Tough King was the average 140. Of the 140 crystals, 100 would have to hand in, and the remaining 40 would have to give 30 to the Blackwater Alliance. In other words, even if he did not train and did not collect Zhen Yuan crystals, he would only be able to save 10 of them per month. Since he was the leader of the dark power in the Black Mountain region, he had a lot of extra income. 80% of the Zhen Yuan crystals that he collected would go to the Black Mountain Alliance, and 20% to his power. As the leader, he would naturally get the biggest share. In other words, it would take the Tough King 4 years to save 4,800 Zhen Yuan crystals. If he used Zhen Yuan crystals to train, it would probably take him 5 to 6 years. Don't say that I didn't give you a way out. I'll leave you 100 Zhen Yuan crystals. Taking out the box, Yi Chen left 100 Zhen Yuan crystals inside. How many Zhen Yuan crystals do you have? On the way, Yi Chen asked Murong Qingqing. Murong Qingqing said, most of them are with the Tough King. Plus some Zhen Yuan crystals that I left for them, there are only 800 of them. That is not bad. Many a little makes a mickle. Yi Chen was very satisfied. Then what should we do next? The Blackwater Alliance will probably come for us soon. Yi Chen said, if we rely on ourselves, it will take at least 50 years before we have the chance to leave the Devouring Island. You and I both cannot wait that long. As for becoming a life and death realm warrior, there are too many unknowns. So, we have to do something unusual. These dark power parties would be a good choice. You plan to take them all out? Why not? Yi Chen was not the kind of person who would follow the rules. He knew that the rules were made to be broken. If he did not think it was necessary, he could just ignore it. Where does the Claw Shadow King live? Arriving at the Black Plain area next to the Black Mountain area, Yi Chen grabbed onto a Sea of Souls realm warrior and asked, 8 miles in that direction. The warrior had been grabbed by Yi Chen and could not move at all, so he said hurriedly, thank you. Yi Chen let go of him. The leader of the dark power in the Black Plain area was called the Claw Shadow King. According to the rumors, he was a lot weaker than the Tough King. Arriving at the place where the Claw Shadow King lived, Yi Chen did not waste any time and threw out a punch. Boom! The ground shook as dust rose up everywhere. Who is looking for death? A human figure flew out. What welcomed him was a cold sword light. With a flash, the Claw Shadow King's whole body was blown away, puking out a huge amount of blood. With such a huge commotion, it was impossible for the warriors of the Claw Shadow King to not know about it. But, before they could even see what was happening clearly, they could only see layers of black shadows in front of their eyes as they were blown away. Only then did they see that it was an extremely beautiful lady with black wings on her back who had attacked them. Who are these two? They are like my idols. They beat up the Claw Shadow King and his warriors so badly that they did not even dare to let out a fart. Waiting until Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing had left, everyone who had seen this scene was shocked. They could not help but admire them. How much? Yi Chen asked Murong Qingqing how many Zhen Yuan crystals she had as usual. 650. Not bad, I have 3,800. There were 30 regions on the number 3 devouring island. With the Black Mountain region as the center, the other 20 or so regions had all been cleaned out by Yi Chen, leaving only a couple of big regions. After cleaning out more than 20 dark power parties, Yi Chen had already gotten 50,000 Zhen Yuan crystals. If it were him alone, he would be able to give all the Zhen Yuan crystals to the Holy Spirit and leave the devouring island. But that was if the Holy Spirit did not lie to them. 52,100 Zhen Yuan crystals in total. Murong Qingqing had just finished counting. There are still 3 regions left. The Yellow Sand region and Iron Mountain region are nothing to worry about, but that explosive Fire King from the Blue Water region is a bit tricky. For Yi Chen to say it was tricky, it meant that he was at least at the top half-step King Warrior level. According to the rumors, he was already a top half-step King Warrior when he first came to the Devouring Island. He has been here for more than 10 years, so it is impossible that he did not improve at all. Besides that, he is also one of the earliest dark power parties on the island. If it were not for the Black Water Alliance not wanting him to expand, he might have already taken over the number 3 Devouring Island. It is indeed tricky, but my luck should not be that bad. What Yi Chen was worried about was that the explosive Fire King was already a top half-step King Warrior. Although there was no freedom on the Devouring Island, there were plenty of Zhen Yuan crystals, especially for the leaders of these dark power parties. They would not lack Zhen Yuan crystals at all. Although Yi Chen's cultivation had reached peak level late seas of Soul's realm and his power had improved a little, there was still some distance between him and the top half-step King Warrior. The top half-step King Warrior does not seem to be that easy to reach. Talent and comprehensive ability are very important. Murong Qingqing was not too worried about it. Hearing her, Yi Chen felt that it was reasonable. Let's not worry about this for now. Let's take care of the other 2 regions first. Outside of the Iron Mountain region, Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing had already found out where the explosive Fire King was staying, and were on their way there. Yi Chen laughed. The main district is indeed the main district. The 2 dark power parties had already given us 15,000 Zhen Yuan crystals. I wonder how many Zhen Yuan crystals this explosive Fire King has? This is the first time I have done this kind of robbing thing. The law of the jungle is the law of the jungle. Instead of being the one who follows the law, I would rather be the one who dominates the law, although only in a small area. Although Yi Chen was usually very gentle and polite, and in a peaceful world, he would be a well-educated person. But before he came to this world, he had always been the one who liked to take the initiative. He would not cause trouble, and he was not afraid of trouble either. There was a kind of iron blood aura in his bones, which was also why he could adapt to the true spirit continent so quickly. Murong Qingqing knew Yi Chen very well. Since the first time she had seen him, she had felt that there was something different about him. But she had never been able to figure out what was different. As the 2 spent more time together, she gradually realized that Yi Chen was the kind of person who could adapt to any environment. He was like a blade of grass that looked very low-key, not as beautiful as a flower, but more tenacious than a flower. He was like a great sword that was usually hidden, but when the time was right, he would cut the throat with a sword. Even if he was put in a place that was 10 times worse, he would still be able to live well. The stars were not as bright as the sun and the moon. But, when you were in the universe, you would realize that this star was way bigger than the sun and the moon. Who is it? The Iron Valley District was the biggest district on the number 3 Devouring Island, and its population was a couple times more than the Black Mountain area. Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing's flying route was too direct, which immediately attracted the attention of the Explosive Fire King's followers. People who are looking for the Explosive Fire King. Murong Qingqing's speed exploded. She flapped her wings and flew like a ghost. The followers of the Explosive Fire King all puked out blood as they were blown away. Get down here! A blue shadow jumped up and threw out a blade light toward Murong Qingqing. Murong Qingqing's power was not weaker than normal half-step king warrior. She threw out a hand blade attack as well, and a black blade light spread out. Boom! The chi flow spread out in all directions, and the warrior was forced back. Both of his feet had sunk deep into the mud, creating a huge pit. Powerful warrior! The warrior who had attacked Murong Qingqing was the top warrior of the Explosive Fire King. He had been on the Devouring Island for many years, and he had already reached the half-step king warrior level. Since there were a lot of people in the Iron Valley District, following the Explosive Fire King would be much better than trying to start a new gang. Plus, the Explosive Fire King was the most powerful warrior out there, so even the Blackwater Alliance did not want to pressure him too much. Therefore, he had been staying in the Iron Valley District all this time, and had never thought about becoming the leader of any of the Dark Power Group. He thought that with his power, it would not be a problem for him to take on Murong Qingqing. He did not expect that he would be at a disadvantage after only one attack. Iron 6, who is causing trouble here? In the mountain in front of Yi Chen, a flame was moving around, and a voice was heard. It was a very calm voice, but it gave people the pressure of a volcano that was about to explode. Boss, you better come out. Iron 6 felt that he would not be able to take down the two. Boom! Just as Iron 6 finished his sentence, the mountain shook a little and a beam of flame shot out from the top of the mountain. It was almost a flash before it arrived right next to Iron 6. Chapter 764. Such a fast speed! Murong Qingqing squeezed her eyes. She could feel that the Explosive Fire King's speed was not because of his powerful Jin Yuan, but because of his usage of the profound sense. He could use 10% of the pushing force to increase his speed by 20% or even 30%. Who are you? The Explosive Fire King studied Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing as a light flame shone on his body. Is the name that important? Yi Chen was also studying the Explosive Fire King. His cultivation was undoubtedly at half-step king warrior level. But compared to the tough king, the Explosive Fire King's Zhen Yuan was more solid, as if there was a volcano compressed inside his body. Before he even arrived, it was already hard to breathe. Yi Chen estimated that the Explosive Fire King's Zhen Yuan was at least 3 times more than the tough king's. Not counting the purity, it would be more than 10 times more than Yi Chen's. This person's cultivation is almost at the Thunder Spirit King's level. I wonder how powerful he is. Cultivation was still cultivation. If one did not have enough profound sense, the power gap would still be huge. I do not care who you are. Since you have come to the Iron Valley District, then don't leave. Or you can choose to be my subordinate. Murong Qingqing was able to beat down Iron 6 with one attack, so she must be very powerful. Although Yi Chen had not attacked yet, with the Explosive Fire King's eyes, he could naturally tell that Yi Chen's threat was even more powerful than Murong Qingqing's. Being your subordinate will depend on whether or not you have the power to do so, Murong Qingqing said. The Explosive Fire King said, A couple of days ago, there was also a young man and woman who came to challenge me. But right now, I have locked them up in the Iron Valley prison. That young man is quite powerful. At such a young age, he already has top half-step king warrior battling power. Do you think your battling power is even more powerful than him? You will know after you try. Yi Chen did not even need to guess to know that the young man and woman were Dongfang Hao and Meng Xiaoling. Dongfang Hao was very powerful, and since even he was not the explosive Fire King's opponent, then the latter's power must be horrifying. But this was exactly what Yi Chen wanted. Those half-step king warriors before him were too weak, and he had not even used 1/3 of his power. Looks like you're very confident. The explosive Fire King wanted to test it out, but seeing that Yi Chen did not do anything, he thought to himself. He did not think that Yi Chen would be able to bring out that much battling power with his peak-level late seas of Soul's Realm cultivation. Boss, don't be careless. Iron 6 had seen the great battle a couple of days ago. He could tell that the explosive Fire King had already used 90% of his power to fight against Dongfang Hao. Don't worry. The explosive Flame King waved his hand. There is a limit to my patience. A couple of days ago, I gave them a chance and only put them in jail for 3 months. However, you guys will not be so lucky. Otherwise, everyone would think that I, the explosive Fire King, am easy to talk to. The explosive Fire King was a bit depressed as well. He had just defeated Yi Chen a couple of days ago, and now there was another Yi Chen. Did they all think that he, the explosive Fire King, was easy to bully? Of course, he did not know that Yi Chen had already swept the third devouring island, and he was the only one left. Chin. Yi Chen did not say much as he slowly took out his Thunder Disaster Sword. A crystal-like lightning flashed once on the sword blade, and the air was sliced open without a sound. Take this. Holding the sword in his right hand, Yi Chen threw out a sword attack. Woo, woo, woo. The dark gold pattern tore open the sky. The space between the two seemed to have turned into a peaceful lake. Meanwhile, the attack that Yi Chen had thrown out was like a huge rock thrown into the lake, bringing up a powerful pattern and attacking toward the explosive Fire King, who was not far away. Not bad. The explosive Fire King did not dare to slow down. A dark red massive iron hammer appeared in his hand. Flames were burning on the surface of the hammer, shining brightly. He threw out a hammer attack toward the center of the pattern. Boom, 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 boom. The Iron Valley area was full of mountains, but once the two exchanged attacks, a huge part of the mountains started to collapse. It was like the sky was falling. Could it be the explosive Fire Profound? In the first exchange of attacks, Yi Chen had realized that the explosive Fire King's Fire Profound was very different from the others. If the pure Fire Profound was just burning, then the explosive Fire King's Fire Profound was like thunder, exploding crazily. Yi Chen's guess was right. The explosive Fire King had indeed learned the explosive Fire Profound. The explosive Fire Profound was actually a Fire Profound as well. However, because it had abandoned the soft part of the Fire Profound and increased its attacking power, the explosive Fire Profound was even more destructive than the Fire Profound. In terms of attacking power, it was undoubtedly more powerful than the normal Fire Profound. Of course, it did not mean that the explosive Fire Profound was better than the normal Fire Profound. Everything in the world had its own reason for existing. The soft part of the Fire Profound was not useless. In other words, the Fire Profound was also divided into yin and yang, and the explosive Fire Profound was more masculine. Metal and water combined profound, and this sword intent? The explosive Fire King was shocked as well. Yi Chen's gold pattern contained both the metal profound and the water profound. The combination of the two profounds would complement each other, and the degree of integration would be very high. However, Yi Chen's sword intent was obviously more powerful, which made the explosive Fire King even more cautious. 9 layers of fire ocean. The Explosive Fire King had learned the explosive fire profound, so he liked to be the main attacker in battles. After blocking out Yi Chen's attack with one attack, he quickly started his counterattack. The dark red iron hammer vibrated 9 times in the air, and 9 layers of exploding fire waves overlapped together, attacking towards Yi Chen. Pop, pop, pop. The space was twisting. The power of the 9 layers of fire waves was unbelievably powerful. The entire space seemed like it could not handle it anymore. Impressive! After Yi Chen waved out that sword attack, he had already lifted up his Thunder Disaster sword again. At the tip of the sword, a black thunder ball appeared quickly, spinning and expanding at an extremely fast speed. By the time the Explosive Fire King started his counterattack, the size of the thunder ball had already exceeded its previous size. It was dozens of meters in diameter, and the black thunder light had even darkened the sky. At first glance it looked like a black sun, vast and horrifying. Go! Yi Chen threw out a sword attack. Shoo! The huge black thunder ball flew out agilely, bouncing around like a star, chasing after the moon and the stars. It seemed like the stars were moving, breaking through the limitation of the space. Dong! In the next instant, the black ball of lightning collided with the 9 layers of fire waves, and a deafening sound erupted. This kind of vibration was not much weaker than a meteor crashing into the ground. Circles of spatial ripples swept in all directions, and the heavenly lightning stirred up the earth fire. 13 layers of waves. The power of the Explosive Fire King was not just for show, it was the real deal. He tore apart the shockwave and flew towards Yi Chen. The iron hammer in his hand kept waving in the air, throwing out layers and layers of fire ocean. With the power of the fire waves, his speed became faster and faster, attacking towards Yi Chen. Boom, boom, boom. Yi Chen's expression did not change. He waved his Thunder Disaster sword casually, and a circle of dark gold pattern appeared, blocking out the incoming fire ocean. In a blink of an eye, Yi Chen waved out 13 sword attacks. 13 circles of pattern appeared with him as the center, quietly blooming, looking extremely beautiful and powerful. With his shocking speed, the Explosive Fire King surrounded Yi Chen and attacked him, like a blacksmith who was forging an extremely hard metal. Unfortunately, Yi Chen's metal was just too hard, not giving any face to the Explosive Fire King at all. No matter how much power the Explosive Fire King used, he could not break in at all. It was just a waste of energy. Explosive Fire Shock. Finally, the Explosive Fire King used his ace attack, throwing out a hammer attack. As this hammer attack was thrown out, the space in front of him twisted drastically. The rolling fire wave was like a sound wave, vibrating crazily. In the past, the Explosive Fire King had used this attack to kill countless half-step king warriors. Even if it were other half-step king warriors at the same level, they would have to avoid it. Boom! The fire wave rushed out and Yi Chen was blown away dozens of miles, bringing up a trail of sparks on his body. Under this attack of mine, you should have suffered a very serious internal injury. This kind of internal injury would not be healed in a short period of time. The Explosive Fire King knew the power of the Explosive Fire Shock very well. He did not think that Yi Chen would be able to survive it, unless he was wearing a pseudo-extreme rank armor. But pseudo-extreme rank armors were just too rare, and not everyone had one. Yi Chen indeed had a pseudo-extreme rank armor, which was the bronze armor he got from the Iron Hand King. However, he did not activate it. Although the Explosive Fire King's Explosive Fire Shock had an unbelievable destructive power, it would not be able to wound him at all. It would already be impressive if it could make him back out dozens of miles. What a powerful ace attack! Yi Chen stopped and said with a smile. You are not hurt? The Explosive Fire King frowned. Yi Chen waved his arm. The dragon bone defense layer on his skin had disappeared, and his muscles were a bit sore. Just then, besides not using his most powerful ace attack, He had already used all of his power. Even so, the explosive fire shock had still damaged some of his internal organs. But Yi Chen had the undying body, so all of those organs had been healed within a second. So powerful. He could even take on the boss explosive fire shock without being hurt at all. Iron 6 opened his mouth wide, looking very shocked. Everyone in the Iron Valley area was also shocked. They had been living in the Iron Valley area for so many years, and they had never seen anyone push the explosive Fire King to this extent. I have seen your explosive fire shock. Now, I will show you my waning moon. If it were not for the fact that he wanted to know more about the explosive Fire King's level and his own power, Yi Chen would not have bothered with him until now. Now it was time to end it. Bring it on. The explosive Fire King was ready to fight, his eyes staring at Yi Chen without blinking. The smile on the corner of Yi Chen's mouth disappeared. His palm held the Thunder Disaster sword neither too lightly nor too heavily as he threw out a sword attack. It was as smooth as flowing water. Not good. The explosive Fire King's eyes widened. In his sight, the sky and the ground had completely disappeared. There was only a crescent moon-like black sword power breaking through the air. The black sword power was getting bigger and bigger, even his sight could not contain it. That kind of feeling was like he was in the middle of a starry sky, watching a broken planet flying towards him. Boom! The black sword power had messed up the explosive Fire King's sense of time. He had only just lifted up his hand when he felt like his body had been struck by lightning. He was blown backward, blood spraying out of his mouth. Crack! That sword attack had not only blown away the explosive Fire King, it had also split the mountains below him into two halves. All of the mountains had been squeezed to the sides, and the rumbling sound was still there. Chapter 765. My Cave. On the Devouring Island there were not many places where one could build a cave. It was impossible to build one on a flat land. Therefore, mountains and hills were all good places to build one. The Iron Valley area was the biggest area of the number 3 Devouring Island, so it had the most mountains and caves. Before, the battle between Yi Chen and the explosive Fire King had already destroyed a lot of caves. And now it was even worse. More than 30% of the caves in the Iron Valley area had been destroyed. The good thing was that the commotion outside was too loud, so most of the people had already left the caves. So, there should not be any death. Looking at the mountain area that had been completely destroyed, everyone wanted to cry but had no tears. Of course, compared to the caves being destroyed, Yi Chen's power had shocked them 100 times more. Who was the explosive Fire King? He was the top half-step king warrior on the number 3 Devouring Island. Even the Black Water Alliance did not want to pressure him too much, so they had given him some special privileges. Out of the 30 regions, only the Iron Valley area had the highest dark power distribution, which was 30 to 70 with the Blackwater Alliance. Pooh! The power of the crescent-shaped sword power was too powerful, and it was extremely powerful as well. The explosive Fire King felt like all of his organs were about to be squeezed out of his mouth as blood kept on puking out. In the end, the explosive Fire King only managed to stop after he had smashed through 4 mountains of the Devouring Island. However, his battling power had probably been reduced by 80 to 90%. With one sword attack, the explosive Fire King had lost badly. The waning moon is indeed powerful. After reaching peak level late seas of Soul's realm, it was the first time Yi Chen had performed the waning moon, and the result was very satisfying. Even a top half-step king warrior like the explosive Fire King could not fight back at all. If it were not for the fact that Yi Chen did not want to kill the explosive Fire King, he might not be able to survive. Even so, the power of the waning moon was still a bit out of Yi Chen's expectation. But after thinking about it, he felt that it was reasonable. Among all of Yi Chen's profound sense martial arts, the waning moon was already the most mysterious one. It contained 80% of the gold profound and 60% of the water profound. Once the two profound were combined, it would not be as simple as 1 plus 1. It would be multiplied. In other words, even among the high-rank profound sense martial arts, the waning moon would be one of the top ones. Boss lost. Iron Six's face was pale. Yi Chen's strength was unimaginably strong. He had no way to calm down. Furthermore, Yi Chen looked so young. From his appearance, he looked to be in his early 20s. His real age was probably no older than 30. Let's go collect the Zhen Yuan crystals. Without much hesitation, Yi Chen asked Murong Qingqing to gather up the warriors of the Explosive Fire King. He believed that he had defeated the Explosive Fire King with one sword attack, which should be enough of a deterrent. If there were really some people who did not have eyes, then they must be stupid. The Iron Valley Zone was indeed the number 1 zone of the third devouring island. The amount of Zhen Yuan crystals they collected was several times that of the other dark forces. The Explosive Fire King's followers had contributed 3,000 Zhen Yuan crystals, and the Explosive Fire King himself had contributed 20,000 Zhen Yuan crystals. Altogether, it was 23,000 Zhen Yuan crystals. Adding with the 67,000 Zhen Yuan crystals that he had gotten before, the total was just over 100,000 Zhen Yuan crystals, which was more than enough for Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing to leave. Of course, Yi Chen did not plan to leave just yet. The devouring island was something that could only be found by luck. In there, one could create their own Zhen Yuan crystals. 1 Zhen Yuan crystal would be worth 100,000 top-rank soul stones on the Crystal Island, which was very shocking. If it were somewhere else, one could even be worth 200,000. Therefore, Yi Chen planned to get enough Zhen Yuan crystals here. He would not only need to prepare himself to become a half-step king warrior, but also to become a life and death realm warrior. Unfortunately, the Zhen Yuan crystals would not work for Murong Qingqing. What Murong Qingqing needed were demon power crystals, which were extremely rare in Elysium. Besides Murong Qingqing, there was no one else who trained demon power, which meant that Murong Qingqing would have to rely on herself. For the sake of Murong Qingqing, Yi Chen decided to stay on the devouring island for a while longer so that Murong Qingqing could make more demon power crystals. With Murong Qingqing's power, she could make more than 100 demon power crystals in a month, which would be close to 500 in 4 months. 500 demon power crystals should be enough for Murong Qingqing to train to the life and death realm. As for after that, she would have more choices, and it would not be limited to demon power crystals. It's him. Dongfang Hao and Meng Xiaoling left the Iron Mountain District Prison and mixed in with the crowd. In fact, the Iron Mountain District Prison would not be able to hold them at all. But they did not dare to leave because once they did, they would definitely anger the Explosive Fire King. Therefore, no matter if they were willing or not, they would still choose to stay in the prison for 3 months. Right then, a huge part of the mountain had been destroyed. Dongfang Hao and Meng Xiaoling flew out of the broken prison. Seeing that it was Yi Chen who had beaten the Explosive Fire King, they had mixed feelings. Ever since they first met Yi Chen, they had not taken Yi Chen seriously at all. But as time went on, Yi Chen's power, whether intentionally or unintentionally, had increased their evaluation of Yi Chen. It was not until Yi Chen had killed Tu the Third that they finally realized that Yi Chen was not a sheep, but a wolf in sheep's clothing. Pissing him off would result in a brutal counterattack. However, Dongfang Hao was not easy to deal with either. Although Yi Chen had killed Tu the Third, he did not think that Yi Chen was more powerful than him. However, right then, Yi Chen, who had beaten the Explosive Fire King, had already proved that he was more powerful than Dongfang Hao, so he could not argue back. Damn it! Dongfang Hao clenched his fists tightly. Brother Hao, let's not mess with him in the future. Meng Xiaoling turned her head subconsciously. Seeing Dongfang Hao's unwilling expression, she hurried to say. Dongfang Hao said fiercely, "You mean I can't catch up to him?" "No, that's not what I meant. We don't have any big grudges with them." This was what Meng Xiaoling wanted to say. Dongfang Hao was in his 30s, and Yi Chen looked much younger than Yi Chen. Whether it was talent or comprehension, Dongfang Hao was weaker than Yi Chen. Even if Dongfang Hao could improve, how could Yi Chen not? It was not an exaggeration to say that Yi Chen was still in a period of rapid development, while Dongfang Hao had already stabilized. The possibility of him improving by leaps and bounds was very low. Dongfang Hao suddenly waved his sleeves, hiding the unwillingness in his eyes. Looking at the void in the north, Yi Chen seemed to have found something. Letting out a breath, Yi Chen turned to Murong Qingqing and said, "Go to the fourth devouring island." The third devouring island had contributed a total of 100,000 Zhen Yuan crystals. Even if the fourth island was not that good, it would not be that bad. Right now, the dark forces on the fourth island still had no idea that they were about to face a disaster. At the center of the first devouring island was a huge mountain that reached into the clouds. On it stood a magnificent palace, looking extremely majestic. A voice came from the palace on the peak. "You're saying that you were robbed by a man and a woman?" Sitting in the main seat was a middle-aged man wearing black clothes with golden threads. He was the manager of the Blackwater Alliance stationed on the island, and was called Sima Zongwen. "Yes, that youngster is very strong. We couldn't even take one sword strike from him." Below him stood more than 20 people. The tough king was at the front, and behind him were the leaders of the third devouring island. "Couldn't even take one sword strike." Sima Zongwen lowered his eyelids. According to the narration of the leaders, he had more or less understood Yi Chen's strength. If he guessed correctly, the latter was definitely a peak half-step king. As for what level, he did not have enough information. Shua! Shua! Another two figures flew over and entered the palace. "What? It's Clear Water King and Yellow Sand King." Everyone recognized them as the Jadewater King of the Jadewater District and the Yellow Sand King of the Yellow Sand District. These two were the top 3 figures of the third devouring island. "You guys were robbed as well." Sima Zongwen frowned. The pale-faced Clearwater King glanced at everyone and said with a bitter smile, "Indeed, that youngster is too powerful. Since you guys have all been beaten, then he should have gone to the Iron Valley region. Let's wait a bit longer." Sima Zongwen did not say anything. The strongest warrior on the third devouring island was the Explosive Fire King. If he did not come after a long time, it meant that Yi Chen had already been beaten. If he came as well, then things would not be so good. About half a cup of tea's time had passed. Shua! A human figure flew up the mountain and appeared in the palace. "Explosive Fire King!" Everyone gasped. They did not think that the Explosive Fire King was here to show off that he had beaten Yi Chen. The result was obvious. He had also lost. "You don't need to say anything." Sima Zongwen looked at the Explosive Fire King's complexion and knew that he had lost. Plus, he was quite heavily injured, and his qi was extremely weak. Waving his hand, Sima Zongwen said, "You all leave. From now on, my Blackwater Alliance will take over this." Yes. The tough king and the rest left. The Explosive Fire King was a bit depressed. He had just realized that he was not the only one who had been robbed. All the other black power parties on the third devouring island had been robbed as well. This youngster must have eaten a leopard's guts. Doesn't he know that the strongest power on the island is not the black power parties, but the Blackwater Alliance? Yi Chen still did not know that he had caused this scene in the palace. But, even if he knew, he would not care. Ever since he robbed the tough king, he had never planned to live peacefully with the Blackwater Alliance. Between the two of them, there would be a winner. On the fourth devouring island, many of the leaders of the black power parties wanted to cry. Just now, all of their Zhen Yuan crystals had been robbed. The other side was still fine, as he had kept the Zhen Yuan crystals they had made this month, so they would not be punished by the Holy Spirit. But all of their belongings had been robbed. Even the most generous of people would not be able to take it. The fourth devouring island is still a bit weaker than the third one. The most powerful half-step king warriors are only at the level of the tough king. Yi Chen was a bit disappointed. After robbing the fourth devouring island, the black power parties had gotten 75,000 Zhen Yuan crystals. Adding the ones from the third island, they had a total of 175,000 crystals. If they were brought out to the outside world, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. Even life and death realm warriors would be greedy and try to rob them. Although the Zhen Yuan crystals from the fourth devouring island were not as good as the ones from the third island, there was still a piece of good news. On the fourth island, there was a leader of a black power party who was actually a dark creature. Although the demonic power he trained was not that pure, the demonic power crystals he made were definitely real. In this way, Murong Qingqing's demonic power crystals had increased by 2,000. Chapter 766. Swish, 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 swish. Above the boundless black ocean, a large number of lights rapidly approached. While Yi Chen was plundering the black powers on the fourth devouring island, Blackwater Alliance had already dispatched experts in Yi Chen's direction. Since the distance between the islands wasn't too close, only after Yi Chen had swept through the fourth devouring island did the Blackwater Alliance's experts arrive at the fourth devouring island. Damn, these two don't put my Blackwater Alliance in their eyes at all. Seeing the destruction in front of them, a half-step king beside Sima Zongwen squinted his eyes and said in a deep voice. Sima Zongwen said, "In the past few decades, it's not like there hasn't been someone challenging our Blackwater Alliance's rule. However, not a single one has succeeded. Zongwen, these two certainly know that the devouring islands are under our Blackwater Alliance's rule. Since they dared to do this, they might have some tricks up their sleeves. Don't be careless." Another skinny old man warned Sima Zongwen. Sima Zongwen nodded. "I know. Even a lion uses its full strength to capture a rabbit. Don't hold back." Yes. The Blackwater Alliance's experts roared in unison. On the black ocean between the fourth and fifth devouring islands, Yi Chen suddenly stopped and said indifferently, "They're here. This Blackwater Alliance seems to attach great importance to us. They've dispatched all half-step kings." Murong Qingqing also noticed the lights in the distance. Yi Chen said, "Peak Masters won't be of any use. I presume Blackwater Alliance knows this as well." A small group of top master-level warriors could kill normal half-step king warriors and compete with the top warriors among them. But, facing a top half-step king warrior, it would be useless. Plus, Yi Chen had defeated the explosive Fire King, which meant that he was one of the top warriors among the top half-step king warriors. Dozens of lights flew over and stopped a few li away from Yi Chen. "State your names." A half-step king roared. "You must be the experts of the Blackwater Alliance. What can I do for you?" Yi Chen asked. Sima Zongwen frowned. "This devouring island is under the rule of my Blackwater Alliance. You ignored the rules here and robbed the Zhen Yuan crystals. Why do you think we're looking for you?" "Under your rule?" Yi Chen pretended to be surprised. "I really didn't know that. Kid, don't be arrogant. If you surrender now, we can still spare your life." Some fiery half-step kings couldn't bear Yi Chen's tone and roared. Yi Chen smiled. "I only know that the devouring island is ruled by the Holy Spirit. Your Blackwater Alliance has fooled the Holy Spirit and made the people here work for you. Those dark powers are all blood-sucking worms, sucking the blood of the people here. I am doing justice for the heavens by robbing their Zhen Yuan crystals." Doing justice for the heavens, huh? However, you should also know that the weak are prey to the strong. This is one of the unchanging heavenly laws. Sima Zongwen was expressionless. That's right. The weak are prey to the strong. That will never change. Wherever there are people, there will be conflicts and fights. Between me and you, there is no right or wrong relationship. There is only the strong preying on the weak. Rules were just an excuse. The strong preying on the weak was the true meaning. Well said. Very few people can see through things so thoroughly. Sima Zongwen shook his head. However, you're very stupid. You shouldn't have challenged my Blackwater alliance. Go. Sima Zongwen waved his hand, and dozens of half-step kings behind him pounced forward. The first to attack was a middle-aged fiendish man with withered yellow hair. His palms were like two large palm leaf fans as he chopped toward Yi Chen. Following this palm strike, a huge palm imprint appeared on the surface of the Black Ocean, and a boundless chi energy pressed down like an iron mountain. Following closely behind was a skinny old man beside Sima Zongwen. He sucked in a deep breath, and the surrounding air was suddenly sucked out. As for himself, he turned from skinny to fat, and his face became round like an inflated balloon. With a thunderous roar, he punched out. The violent fist energy raised a huge wave on the Black Ocean, looking incomparably frightening. At the same time, fiery energy, overlapping phantoms, dazzling golden blade chi, and indomitable spear light attacked like a torrential storm, not giving Yi Chen the slightest space to dodge. Scram! Yi Chen pulled out the Thunder Calamity Sword, and instead of retreating, he charged forward to meet them. He first sent the yellow-haired fiendish man flying with golden ripple, causing the latter to spurt out a few mouthfuls of blood. Then, he thrust his sword at the fat old man. The sharp sword chi cut the latter's arm, leaving a bloody wound. Yi Chen then pointed his left index finger at the air, breaking the fiery energy and heavily attacking the opponent. This series of actions was completed in a flash. As for the overlapping phantoms, they all brushed past him, unable to injure him in the slightest. The dazzling golden blade chi was also cut off by his finger, greatly reducing its might. Murong Qingqing wasn't idle either. Her opponent was a spear-wielding half-step king. The two were exchanging blows at high speed, turning into countless afterimages. Only pitch-black arcs of light and spear lights could be seen clashing in the void. This kid's too strong. The fiendish middle-aged fiendish man, who had been sent flying, stabilized his body. He discovered that his internal organs had suffered a certain degree of injury, and his battle power had been reduced. This was still because the opponent was fighting one against many, and couldn't bring out his offensive power to its peak. Otherwise, his injuries would have been 10 times worse. My Empyrean battle body has been broken? The old man recovered his skinny appearance and was incomparably shocked. After a series of exchanges, more than half of the dozen half-step kings attacking Yi Chen had suffered varying degrees of injuries. Although the remaining few weren't injured, their attacks were also ineffective. 9 swords at the same time. Suddenly, Yi Chen's left hand moved, and a sword flew out from the scabbard on his waist. This was a semi-extreme grade sword, one of the semi-extreme grade swords Yi Chen had obtained from Sky Scorpio King's sword tomb. Its might was even above that of the Thunder Disaster Sword, and 2 words were carved on the sword's body. In the past, Yi Chen had never used a semi-extreme grade sword. Firstly, there was no need, and secondly, it was to conceal the sharpness of the sword control art. Afterwards, Yi Chen's various profounds had greatly improved, and the sword control art had suddenly weakened a lot. It couldn't compare to Yi Chen's major profounds. But now Yi Chen's sword control art had made a lot of progress. From 5 swords simultaneously, it had become 9 swords simultaneously. Adding the fact that the sword he was controlling was a semi-extreme grade sword, the offensive power of the sword control art was no weaker than Gold Ripple, second only to Waning Moon. Chi 9 sword shadows shot out, and 9 half-step kings were sent flying while spurting out blood. A deep cut appeared on their chest armor. Sword control art. Sima Zongwen had been observing Yi Chen's strength the entire time. As long as he could figure out the opponent's strength, he would immediately use his killing move to kill him. Seeing the 9 sword shadows, he couldn't help but blurt out. Be it on True Spirit Continent or in the deep ocean, this sword control art was a lost sword art. He didn't expect to see this legendary sword art in Yi Chen's hands. Of the dozen half-step kings, 9 were heavily injured, and the remaining few weren't in a good state either. On the other hand, Yi Chen's aura was calm, and he seemed to know when to advance or retreat. Back off. Sima Zongwen's face was gloomy. The half-step kings he had brought with him were all experts among half-step kings. He hadn't expected that they wouldn't last more than a few moves against Yi Chen. If he had known this earlier, he would have joined the battle from the very beginning, not giving Yi Chen the opportunity to injure them. This way, Yi Chen's advantage wouldn't be so great. A long staff appeared in his hand. With a stern roar, Sima Zongwen waved the staff. The shining staff shadow was like a star, like a myriad of rays, and like a silver river pouring down, violently attacking Yi Chen. This staff is strange. Yi Chen exclaimed in surprise and raised his sword in front of him. Clang! Amidst the sound of metal clashing, Yi Chen retreated a few steps. The qi around him surged, and the winds and clouds fluctuated. Faintly, a dragon's howl could be heard. Butcher chop! Sima Zongguan swung his staff through the air again. The powerful staff shadow tore open a huge hole in the Black Sea below. It was unfathomably deep. Clang! Yi Chen retreated a few more steps, his blood and qi fluctuating. Worthy of being Sima Zongwen. He's actually suppressing him. The experts of Blackwater Alliance, who had retreated far away, revealed joyous expressions. This shouldn't be strange. Sima Zongwen has long since become a peak half-step king. Adding the replica dragon extermination staff in his hand, ordinary peak half-step kings can't even last 10 moves against him. Dragon extermination staff. Hearing the words of Blackwater Alliance's expert, Yi Chen seemed to be lost in thought. Take another staff strike. Sima Zongwen was overbearing. His staff shadows filled the sky, each strike reaping the life. Just as Blackwater Alliance's expert had said, the staff in Sima Zongwen's hand was a replica of Dragon Extermination Staff. Although Dragon Extermination Staff couldn't compare to a pseudo-supreme grade artifact, it was a top-notch existence among semi-supreme grade artifacts. Moreover, it had a dragon-slaying property. Although it was called dragon-slaying, it actually had a deeper meaning. According to legends, the vitality of dragons was extremely powerful. Moves that could kill a human of the same level couldn't kill a dragon. Since it could slay a dragon, it was naturally easy to slaughter a human. After all, the vitality of a human was several levels lower than that of a dragon. You have Dragon Extermination Staff, and I have Blood-Severing Ghost Finger. Yi Chen raised his left hand's index and middle fingers and slashed at Sima Zongwen. Rip! A strand of condensed qi and blood was obliterated within Sima Zongwen's body. What? Sima Zongwen was greatly alarmed. He hurriedly raised Dragon Extermination Staff to block Yi Chen's Blood-Severing Ghost Finger. Dragon Extermination Staff and Blood-Severing Ghost Finger seemed to have some similarities. The unblockable power of Blood-Severing Ghost Finger was actually mostly neutralized by Dragon Extermination Staff, and the remaining power was negligible. So that's how it is. Yi Chen had a rough understanding of Dragon Extermination Staff's effect. Dragon Slaying Cut. Sima Zongwen was extremely wary of Yi Chen's Blood-Severing Ghost Finger. The Zhen Yuan in his body surged, and a large part of it poured into Dragon Extermination Staff before slashing down. Woo 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 woo. The staff's shadow, which dimmed the sun and moon, whistled over, faintly carrying the aura of splitting mountains and rivers. Waning moon. Yi Chen raised his sword to meet it, slashing out a black crescent-shaped sword energy. As soon as the sword energy appeared, the sun and moon became even dimmer. Above the Black Sea, the gravity completely disappeared. Vaguely, it was as if a star that was about to shatter had crashed over, destroying everything. Rumble! A semicircle caved in on the Black Sea, and a water pillar shot up into the sky. On the other side of the water pillar, Sima Zongwen spat out a fountain of blood as he flew out with Dragon Extermination Staff in hand. Eventually, he fell into the Black Sea and crashed into the seabed, his fate unknown. Chapter 767. The broken blood sword floated above Yi Chen's head, its tip shining with a beam of blood light. Making a clanging sound with his left hand, Yi Chen said, "The weak are meat and the strong eat them. Right now, you guys should be very clear about the situation. Do not do anything stupid." Swish. After saying these words, Yi Chen pointed his left hand, and the blood-ruined sword turned into a beam of bloody light, striking at the spear expert fighting Murong Qinqing. This spear expert was not bad. At the crucial moment, he could still raise his spear and block in front of him. Unfortunately, Yi Chen's defensive sword art had already reached the realm of 9 swords at the same time. Although he blocked the blood-ruined sword's main body, he was caught unprepared by the sword images and was blown back while spurting blood. For a moment, all the experts of Blackwater Alliance brought by Sima Zongwen were gravely injured. Sima Zongwen himself was even worse off. Under Yi Chen's deterrence, no one dared to move. Even if they did, it would be useless. Their current strength had been greatly reduced, and their bodies still contained a trace of destruction sword intent. This destruction sword intent was extremely hard to remove, and the slightest carelessness would cause the sword intent to invade their souls and injure them. After plundering these people's Zhen Yuan crystals, Yi Chen was quite surprised. These fellows had very few Zhen Yuan crystals. The most among them only had 500 or 600, and the least among them only had 100. In total, they had less than 3,000 Zhen Yuan crystals, not even as much as a leader of a dark force. What Yi Chen didn't know was that Blackwater Alliance was different from the dark forces of Devouring Island. Their Zhen Yuan crystals were all stored in the crystal storehouse, and not carried on their bodies. If they were ordered to leave the island, Blackwater Alliance would naturally supply them with Zhen Yuan crystals. Although the leaders of dark forces had a lot of Zhen Yuan crystals, they couldn't leave. They were like fat sheep in a pen. No matter how fat they were, it didn't matter. Sima Zongwen didn't die. The moment he appeared on the sea surface, he was subdued by Yi Chen, and the storage ring on his finger landed in Yi Chen's hand. "You dare!" Sima Zongwen turned pale. He didn't expect Yi Chen to be so daring, even wanting to loot Blackwater Alliance's Zhen Yuan crystals. "Don't you think it's ridiculous to say such things now?" Erasing the soul imprint on his storage ring, Yi Chen sent a trace of his consciousness into it. TSK, it seems like you are the top warrior on the Devouring Island. You have more than 100,000 Zhen Yuan crystals in your storage ring. Half-step king warriors would only need to pay 100,000 Zhen Yuan crystals to get out, and they would be able to enter the Devouring Island at any time. You will regret this. Sima Zongguan knew that he was no match for Yi Chen, so he allowed him to take away more than 100,000 true essence crystals. That's a matter for later. Putting away the Zhen Yuan crystals, Yi Chen nodded at Murong Qinqing and flew towards the number 5 Devouring Island. "Manager, what should we do next? This brat's strength is several times stronger than what we had imagined. With our strength, we definitely won't be able to take him down." The other experts of the Blackwater Alliance flew to Sima Zongguan's side. Sima Zongguan said with a gloomy face, "Let him be arrogant for a while, I'll go invite the Crown Prince." "Invite the Crown Prince?" The skinny old man was startled. The Crown Prince hates trouble the most. Although this brat is strong, I don't think he'll need the Crown Prince's help. The Crown Prince he spoke of was the number 1 half-step king of the Blackwater Alliance, and also an unshakable leader of the young generation. Although they had never seen the Crown Prince fight, it was said that he was already a strongest half-step king. Under life and death realm, he was practically invincible. Sima Zongguan shook his head. "This person is very strong. Inviting others is not safe. Only by inviting the Crown Prince can we be absolutely safe." He also didn't believe that Yi Chen was a strongest half-step king. Strongest half-step kings were too rare, much rarer than even life and death kings. Although some people could become life and death kings, they might not necessarily be strongest half-step kings. They might even directly enter life and death realm from peak half-step kings. It was just like true spirit continent. Although half-step kings were not as numerous as the hairs on a cow, their numbers were still not small. However, there were only 3 strongest half-step kings. With the crown prince making a move, nothing will go wrong. No matter how strong this brat is, he won't be able to do anything to the crown prince. Seeing Sima Zhongguan's resolution, the experts of Blackwater Alliance revealed cold smiles. The 5th Devouring Island's population was less than half of the 4th Island's, and the 6th Island's population was even smaller, only having 3,000 to 4,000 people. After looting the black powers of the 2 islands, Yi Chen had only obtained 30,000 Zhen Yuan crystals, which was better than nothing. Right now, we have more than 300,000 Zhen Yuan crystals. Should we go out? Murong Qingqing asked. Yi Chen faintly nodded. We're only at the peak of Late Sea of Soul Realm. The 2 of us only need to pay 100,000 Zhen Yuan crystals, and we'll still have 200,000 left. Since you have demonic power crystals, let's go. We can't be careless. Yi Chen was still somewhat apprehensive of Blackwater Alliance. If a life and death king came, he wouldn't even be able to escape. Taking out the naturally formed stone altar, Yi Chen placed 100,000 Zhen Yuan crystals inside. Buzz! The stone altar blossomed with an ancient radiance, and the Zhen Yuan crystals disappeared. However, there was no movement after that. Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing were still in this world. Deceiving us? Yi Chen's complexion was unsightly. The rules don't allow me to deceive people. At this moment, a strange ripple appeared in the void, and the Holy Spirit's figure gradually took shape. Murong Qingqing closely stared at the Holy Spirit and said, "Then why can't we leave?" The Holy Spirit said, "You've killed 34 people, and you still haven't paid all of their Zhen Yuan crystals. The rest will be paid by you. 520,000 Zhen Yuan crystals in total." Fuck you. Even someone as calm as Yi Chen couldn't help but curse out loud. He had looted the 4th Devouring Island and obtained 300,000 Zhen Yuan crystals. He thought it would be more than enough to leave the island. But he had never expected that he would owe more and more Zhen Yuan crystals. Even if he put in the remaining 200,000 Zhen Yuan crystals, he would still owe 300,000 Zhen Yuan crystals. This was too much of a scam. If he followed the normal method, he would never be able to leave the island. You're not deceiving us? Murong Qingqing also felt that it was absurd. You see for yourself. The Holy Spirit waved its right hand in the void, and a moving image appeared in front of the 2. When he looted the 3rd and 4th islands, he didn't think that he had killed anyone by mistake. However, it was only his assumption. Since his soul power could only extend 50 meters in the mud and rocks, he couldn't be sure that he hadn't killed anyone by mistake. But this moving scene told him that he had killed a lot of people by mistake. They were all people who were making Zhen Yuan crystals in their caves, and couldn't escape in time. The rules don't allow me to deceive people. Therefore, everything I've said is the truth. As long as you hand over enough Zhen Yuan crystals, you can leave the island. The Holy Spirit's tone didn't change at all. Sucking in a deep breath, Yi Chen said, "All right, I believe that you won't lie. But, can you tell me what kind of agreement you have with the Blackwater Alliance?" The Holy Spirit said, "Among them, there is a powerful life and death king who communicated with me. As for the details, I can't tell you." After speaking, the Holy Spirit's figure disappeared with the wind. It's harder than I thought. Yi Chen had to admit that what he did before was in vain, and he still owed 300,000 Zhen Yuan crystals. In for a penny, in for a pound. Murong Qingqing said resolutely. "I can only do this for now." Yi Chen's gaze pierced through the boundless black ocean and landed on the other side of the 3rd island, where the 1st and 2nd islands were located. Sima Zhongguan's figure slowly appeared at a connection point between the island and the outside world. Without any hesitation, he directly flew toward the Crystal Island, raising his speed to the limit. Roughly 2 hours later, Sima Zongwen arrived at the Crystal Island. There were many half-step kings stationed on the island. Sensing Sima Zongwen's aura, they found it strange. Today was not the day to transport Zhen Yuan crystals, so why did Sima Zongwen leave the island? Could something big have happened? Sima Zongwen, why did you leave the island without permission? A half-step king greeted him. Sima Zongwen said, Elder Fong, it's a long story. A powerful person has arrived on the island, and he's looting Zhen Yuan crystals everywhere. What powerful person? Even you can't handle him? Elder Fong was well aware of Sima Zongwen's strength. The number of half-step kings he couldn't handle was few and far between. The other party couldn't be a strongest half-step king, right? Very powerful. Apart from strongest half-step kings, no one is safe. Sima Zongwen said again, Is the Crown Prince on the island? Your luck is pretty good. The Crown Prince returned half a month ago, and is currently cultivating in seclusion on the island. I'll notify him for you. Elder Fong knew that the matter was urgent. Many thanks. Sima Zongwen cupped his fist. In merely 2 hours, Yi Chen had looted the second island. There were many experts on this island, and there were even 2 half-step kings on the level of Flame Burst King. There were also many half-step kings on the level of Tough King. However, they could only suffer a crushing defeat before Yi Chen. After looting the second island, Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing arrived at the first island. There were more than 80,000 people on the island, but there were no dark forces. It turned out that the first island was under the direct management of the Blackwater Alliance. Just like the third island, the first island was divided into 30 regions, each of which was guarded by experts of the Blackwater Alliance. Without any dark forces, Yi Chen looted the experts of the Blackwater Alliance stationed in each region, not letting a single one go. We've obtained 130,000 Zhen Yuan crystals from the second island. I didn't expect the first island to have twice as many as the second, 270,000. Altogether, we have 400,000. 400,000 plus the 200,000 from before was enough to make up for the remaining 520,000 Zhen Yuan crystals. However, Yi Chen was clear that this was still not enough. After looting the first and second islands, it was impossible to not kill anyone by mistake. The caves on the islands were too concentrated. As expected, the Holy Spirit appeared once again. Adding the people you killed by mistake before, there are 50 people in total. You need to make up for 750,000 Zhen Yuan crystals. The Holy Spirit spoke in a businesslike manner. 750,000. We still owe 150,000. This time, Yi Chen was very calm. His gaze fell on the huge mountain peak at the center of the first island. There were palaces there, precisely the headquarters of the Blackwater Alliance. Chapter 768. The Devouring Island had 6 islands in total. The number 1 island had the most people, 80,000, and the number 2 was slightly less, around 50 to 60,000. The third island was 30,000, the fourth was close to 30,000, the fifth was 15,000, and the sixth was 3 to 4,000. The total population of the 6 islands was more than 200,000. Although most of them were astral-reaching realm warriors, and less than 1/10 of them were Sea of Souls realm warriors, the population was still there. According to the rules of the Blackwater Alliance, an astral-reaching realm warrior would have to hand over 3 Zhen Yuan crystals to the Blackwater Alliance every month, and Sea of Souls realm warriors would have to hand over 15. After a month, the accumulated Zhen Yuan crystals would definitely be shocking. Plus, it should not be forgotten that most of the Zhen Yuan crystals collected by the Dark Power parties would belong to the Blackwater Alliance as well. In other words, the Blackwater Alliance would have 2 portions of income. One would be the Zhen Yuan crystals that everyone handed over, and the other would be the Zhen Yuan crystals handed over by the Dark Power parties. If Yi Chen wanted to clear his debt and leave the island, he would have to think about the Blackwater Alliance. Who is it? On this massive mountain peak there were countless powerful warriors. Countless human figures flew out of the palace, moving as fast as lightning. Yi Chen's speed did not decrease at all. With his body as the starting point, a horrifying destructive sword intent shot out, carrying the will to destroy everything. It swept across in a straight line. That kind of brutal and pure aura made all of the powerful warriors from the Blackwater Alliance feel a chill in their bodies, and their souls were in chaos. All of a sudden, all of the flowers and trees on the mountain peak were wiped out without a trace. At this moment, warriors whose martial will had not reached the 5th step, or were not even half-step king warriors would not have the courage to fight at all. Let's go in. Within a blink of an eye, Yi Chen and Murong Qinqing had already arrived outside of the palace on top of the mountain. Stop right there. All of a sudden, 4 half-step king warriors whose power was not weaker than the tough king jumped out from 4 directions, trying to stop Yi Chen and Murong Qinqing. Yi Chen smiled lightly as he took out his Thunder Disaster sword and waved it out in 4 different directions. 4 beams of black sword chi were thrown out almost at the same time. The 4 warriors went back the way they had come, puking out a huge mouthful of blood. Crack! After blowing away the 4 of them, Yi Chen raised his Thunder Disaster sword up high and chopped down. The palace was instantly cut in half like a fruit. Not here. Yi Chen glanced around, but did not find any place that could possibly store Jin Yuan crystals. However, he was not in a hurry. With another slash of his sword, the left half of the palace was split into 2. Just like that, Yi Chen swung his sword to the east and to the west. The originally majestic and luxurious palace was like a fruit platter, turning into pieces and strips, falling to the left and right. I found the crystal vault. When Yi Chen swung his sword for the 18th time, the momentum of his sword met with resistance. A cold glint flashed in Yi Chen's eyes. He held his sword with both hands and swung it down. Boom! A large expanse of light blossomed, and everything in front of him suddenly became clear. This was a vault made entirely of crystals. The crystals were not Zhen Yuan crystals, but a kind of energy crystal that could be used to set up arrays. The resistance just now was precisely the power of the array, which had been shattered by Yi Chen's full power sword attack. Inside the broken vault was a stone platform. On top of it was a floating light sphere, and inside the sphere was a storage ring. Taking a step forward, Yi Chen arrived beside the light sphere and reached out his hand. Bang! The light ball suddenly shook, bouncing off Yi Chen's palm, making it impossible for him to exert any force. It's the power of space. Yi Chen could feel that the light sphere contained an extremely pure power of space. Normal attacks would not be able to touch it. If one tried to forcefully attack it, the light sphere would break the space and escape into the void. In other words, without knowing the method to open it, no one under life and death realm would be able to obtain the storage ring inside. Slowly letting out a breath of impure qi, Yi Chen extended his right index finger. The void around his finger gradually twisted, emitting a fluctuation that was similar to the light sphere. It was indeed the power of space. Break! Yi Chen poked at the light sphere. Pop! A popping sound was heard as the light sphere shattered. Without the light sphere's support, the storage ring fell down and was grabbed by Yi Chen. After obtaining the storage ring, Yi Chen immediately released his soul power into the storage ring. This storage ring didn't have a soul imprint, so Yi Chen's soul power went straight in, entering its internal space. So big. The storage ring's internal space was much bigger than Yi Chen had imagined. It was more than 20 times the size of a mid-grade storage ring, like a huge plaza. On this flat ground, there were piles of huge chests that were half the height of a human. These chests were all open, and through the gaps, one could see the glittering crystal radiance inside. 10 chests, 100 chests, 200 chests. There were so many chests that they almost covered a quarter of the flat ground. Roughly speaking, there were about 200 to 250 chests. According to the size of the Zhen Yuan crystals and the chests, it was not hard to estimate that one chest could hold 10,000 Zhen Yuan crystals. 200 chests would be more than 2 million Zhen Yuan crystals. Take a look. Yi Chen handed the storage ring to Murong Qingqing. Murong Qingqing took the storage ring and poured her soul power into it. So much? Blackwater Alliance can collect more than 2 million Zhen Yuan crystals in a month? Murong Qingqing asked suspiciously. Yi Chen shook his head. It should be more than 1 month. It should be 3 months. This month has not arrived yet, so I guess they have only collected a part of it. Based on this, the Blackwater Alliance should be collecting around 1 million Zhen Yuan crystals per month. As for how many months they would transport them, I am not sure. If they were to transport the crystals, they would have to be sent by half-step king warriors, which would cost 100,000 Zhen Yuan crystals per trip. One would not be safe, and a few more would add up to hundreds of thousands of Zhen Yuan crystals. It was not a small number at all. Blackwater Alliance had considered this point, which was why they did not transport the crystals every month. Otherwise, it would not benefit Yi Chen so much. There was no mistake this time. 150,000 should be enough. Yi Chen let out a deep breath as a smile appeared on his face. 2 million Zhen Yuan crystals were priceless, and a top-grade storage ring was priceless as well. Although they had been tricked by the Blackwater Alliance, the items they had collected were more than enough. Let's go now. Yi Chen took out the stone altar. All of a sudden, the space above the mountain rippled, and 2 figures appeared. One was Sima Zongwen, and the other was a dignified young man with a purple gold crown on his head. The young man looked to be in his 30s, but his real age was probably in his 40s. His long and narrow eyes emitted a tangible killing intent. As soon as he appeared, his gaze locked onto Yi Chen in the palace. It's the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince has arrived. Upon seeing Sima Zongwen and the young man, the experts of the Blackwater Alliance revealed ecstatic expressions. Then, they looked at Yi Chen as if they were looking at a dead man. Yi Chen sized up the young man and inwardly said, "What a profound cultivation base. Twice as high as the explosive Flame King. Is he a strongest half-step king? Crown Prince, it's him." Sima Zongguan glanced at the peak and the ruined palace, and finally fixed his eyes on the stone platform at the center of the crystal warehouse. Seeing that the light ball on the stone platform had disappeared, he roared as if he had seen a ghost. "You dare to rob the crystal warehouse of my Blackwater Alliance?" The Zhen Yuan crystals that the Blackwater Alliance collected on the Devouring Island would only be transported out once every 6 months. This time, it had only been less than 3 months. Even so, there were still more than 2 million Zhen Yuan crystals in the treasury. It would be terrible if they were robbed. Consider this compensation from the Blackwater Alliance. Yi Chen didn't care about the furious Sima Zongwen at all. "You!" Sima Zongwen's face turned ashen. "State your name." The young man in luxurious robes didn't make a sound. Only when Sima Zongwen said that Yi Chen had plundered the treasury did his expression change. His face turned gloomy, revealing his killing intent. "Why don't you introduce yourself?" Yi Chen said. "Wang Tai." The young man in luxurious robes looked down from above. "Yi Chen." Nodding, Yi Chen stated his name. "Yi Chen, never heard of you. But it doesn't matter. Hand over the Zhen Yuan crystals, and I'll leave your corpse intact. Otherwise, you and your girlfriend will wish you were dead." Wang Tai's voice was extremely gloomy, carrying a bone-piercing chill. "Sorry, but the choice is mine." Yi Chen took out 150,000 Zhen Yuan crystals and threw them on the stone platform. Courting death. Wang Tai was enraged. Spreading his 5 fingers, he sent a palm toward Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing. Roar. A dragon roar resounded as Wang Tai's 5 fingers emitted a boundless qi energy. The 5 qi energies were like 5 water dragons, coiling together and pressing down on the mountain peak. At this moment, all living things seemed to have lost their will. Only the frightening dragon roars could be heard, distorting the space around the entire mountain peak. A strongest half-step king, as expected. Yi Chen's pupils shrank. Buzz. The moment the 5 water dragons attacked, Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing disappeared. Having lost their target, the 5 water dragons immediately lost control and smashed the huge mountain peak into pieces. Their wriggling bodies drilled up and down in the dust. It was a scene of apocalypse. You're dead. There's no place for you in this world. The killing intent in Wang Tai's eyes seemed to be able to pierce through the void. The moment Yi Chen disappeared, a faintly discernible voice reached Yi Chen's ears. I'll be waiting for you. Yi Chen's voice came from the void. Humph. Hearing Yi Chen's voice, Wang Tai tightly clenched his right fist, causing the ground below to crack. Crown Prince, this bastard took away more than 2 million Zhen Yuan crystals. We can't let him escape. Sima Zongwen was about to go crazy. Although Yi Chen's strength was too high, and the loss of the treasury had nothing to do with him, the Blackwater Alliance couldn't let him off the hook. Moreover, his lucrative position as Zongwen would be in jeopardy. Wang Tai coldly said, "Those who aren't from my Blackwater Alliance will only appear in one place after being transported out of the Devouring Island, the chaotic demonic ocean. After I leave, I'll lead a group of people to hunt him down. As for you, go to the Alliance headquarters and beg for forgiveness." After speaking, Wang Tai took out the Zhen Yuan crystals he had prepared and directly tossed them into the air. With a swish, the Zhen Yuan crystals disappeared, and Wang Tai's figure also gradually faded away. Chapter 769. It was not Yi Chen's first time experiencing it, so it should not be too bad for him. However, the truth was the opposite. Both Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing felt extremely uncomfortable after being teleported out of the Devouring Island. Not only did they feel dizzy, but their blood and Zhen Yuan also started to flow in the opposite direction, as if they were about to burst out of their bodies. This state lasted for a long time. Gradually, a flash of light appeared in the chaotic nothingness. The light was extremely dazzling, as if many spears of light were condensing and stabbing towards them. Pop! The two were teleported out of the chaotic world. What a strange teleportation! Yi Chen had not regained his sense of direction and balance yet, so he just floated in place, waiting for his body to recover. Murong Qingqing did the same. They did not lose control for long. About 10 breaths later, the two completely recovered. Originally, I thought that the Devouring Island was just a lost plane. Now it seems that it is not so simple. Yi Chen looked around and realized that they were on the vast ocean. He let out a sigh of relief and said to Murong Qingqing. Murong Qingqing nodded. The Devouring Island's rules are different from Elysium's. If it is a lost plane, then the rules should be similar to Elysium's. Yi Chen said, "We can think about the Devouring Island later. But this ocean is a bit strange." Although the ocean beneath their feet was no different from other oceans, and there was nothing strange about it, Yi Chen had a feeling that the ocean below was darker and more ruthless than other places. Occasionally, small fishes and shrimps darted out, giving off an awe-inspiring feeling. "It is demonic qi," Murong Qingqing said. "Demonic qi?" Yi Chen suddenly understood. No wonder he felt that it was familiar. It was the source of demonic power, demonic qi. Murong Qingqing continued, "I can feel that the demonic qi is coming from the bottom of the ocean. The deeper we go, the stronger the demonic qi." "Then isn't this your paradise?" Yi Chen smiled. "The demonic energy here is indeed very dense, but it's also mixed with other things." Murong Qingqing, who possessed pure demonic energy, seemed to have sensed something and looked toward the northwest. In the northwest direction, a large black dot had appeared out of nowhere. The black dot was moving at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, it was still on the horizon, but in the blink of an eye, it was already more than 100 miles away. Moreover, it was flying towards Yi Chen's direction at an astonishing speed. If an ordinary person encountered such a situation, they would have already hurriedly avoided it. However, Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing had not yet figured out the situation, so they naturally would not avoid it in order to avoid any unnecessary misunderstandings. Of course, these black dots were not black dots, but human figures. These figures were divided into two groups. The group in front had fewer people, only 7 or 8 people, while the group behind had more than 30 people. The two groups were chasing each other. What surprised Yi Chen was that the group in front had a demonic beast shadow behind them, while the group in the back also had a faint demonic chi ripple on their bodies. "It's the half-monster clan and the demonic human clan," Yi Chen exclaimed in surprise. "Yes." Murong Qingqing's face turned slightly solemn. When they were less than a few miles away from Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing, the group of 7 or 8 people from the half-monster clan was caught up by the group of 30 demonic humans. These 7 or 8 people were led by a white-robed woman. She looked around as if she was facing a great enemy. Her eyes swept past Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing, and she blinked her eyes as if she was hinting at something. "Should be from the Silvermoon White Fox clan, not bad at all." The phantom of the white fox behind the white-robed woman was very clear, and there was a silver crescent moon imprinted on the white fox's forehead. It was not hard for Yi Chen to guess that she was the descendant of the Silvermoon White Fox King and a human. As for the white-robed woman's blinking eyes, it should be a signal for them to leave. "Miss, we'll stop them, you run quickly," the young man next to the white-robed woman said anxiously when he saw that they were surrounded by many demonic humans. The white-robed woman said, "Our Silvermoon White Fox clan is not an ordinary demonic fox clan. We have never abandoned our clansmen. Miss, don't argue at this time. You staying here is useless. As long as you can avenge us in the future, it's fine." The old man on the white-robed woman's right tried to persuade her. The white-robed woman smiled bitterly. "Do you think I can escape? Even if I can escape for a while, they will still catch up in the end. At that time, I'll be the only one left. It's better for everyone to risk their lives now. Maybe we will have a chance to survive." "Haha, why aren't you running anymore? I've chased you for 3 days and 3 nights, I thought I could play for a few more days." The demonic human in the lead was a middle-aged man with an abnormally robust body. His upper body was naked, and his muscles were like streamlined metal. His arms had already lost the shape of a human, becoming 2 extremely thick black arms. 2 sharp white bones extended from his elbows and shoulders, and the hand that held the spear had sharp, curved nails that flickered with a strange black light. Just like the middle-aged demonic human, the other demonic humans all had their upper bodies naked, and there was always a part of their body that was different from ordinary humans, like demons or devils. Demonic transformation. Yi Chen could tell that these demonic humans could all transform, and the part of their transformation was extremely sinister, far more frightening than the demonic humans on True Spirit Continent. "Our Silvermoon Arctic Fox clan has no enmity with your demonic humans. Why do you have to force us? Do you really think our Silvermoon Arctic Fox clan is easy to bully?" The white-robed woman held a silver-white thin sword in her hand, her expression stern. "Hee, who doesn't know that chaotic demon ocean is our demonic human clan's territory? Since you're here, you'll have to accept our management. Put down your weapons and follow us back obediently, and we might let you live. Otherwise, apart from you, everyone else will die." The middle-aged demonic human grinned. "Don't think I don't know what you're planning. In these years, countless demonic beasts have disappeared in chaotic demon ocean. Most of them were captured by you guys." The white-robed woman also didn't want to come to chaotic demon ocean. Although the ocean was extremely evil and rich in demonic chi, it was precisely because of this unique environment that some rare spirit plants grew here. The white-robed woman had come precisely for the demonic silver grass. "Since you already know, why bother asking? Are you going to follow us obediently, or are you going to fight and leave behind a few corpses?" The middle-aged demonic human's arms were shrouded in a layer of black chi, as if they were demonic arms burning with ghost flames. Don't even think about it. The white-robed woman clenched her teeth. In that case, don't blame me for being ruthless. The middle-aged demonic human's expression turned even more sinister. However, he didn't immediately attack the white-robed woman and the others. Instead, he said to a demonic human beside him in a low voice, "Iron Bones, take a group and surround those two. If they're willing to surrender, then that's fine. If not, kill that young man." Yes. The demonic human called Iron Bones was much stronger than the middle-aged demonic human. His exposed upper body was like a small mountain. His right arm and half of his body were covered in a layer of black bone armor. This bone armor grew out of his flesh, and was extremely thick with spiral patterns on its surface. "I didn't expect to have to fight you demonic humans right after coming here. How could Yi Chen not see that these demonic humans didn't want to let them go? Demonic humans, there's no difference. The only difference is whether we're enemies or not." Murong Qingqing didn't have a good impression of these demonic humans. The demonic humans here had already changed. Their auras were extremely violent and murderous. "Go." The middle-aged demonic human waved his hand. More than 20 demonic humans pounced at the white-robed woman's group. On the other hand, the demonic human called Iron Bone led 10 demonic humans and shot toward Yi Chen's direction like black lightning bolt. In the blink of an eye, Yi Chen and the white-robed woman were surrounded. "Kid, seal your own Jin Yuan, and I can spare your life." As if Murong Qingqing's temperament had an astonishing attraction for him, the demonic human called Iron Bones didn't target Murong Qingqing. Instead, he fiercely roared at Yi Chen. "With just the few of you?" Yi Chen sized up the 10. Apart from the demonic human who spoke, the others hadn't reached half-step king realm. Of course, once a demonic human transformed, their strength would multiply. These demonic humans who hadn't reached half-step king realm should be able to contend against ordinary half-step kings. "Seems like you want to die." Iron Bones narrowed his eyes and waved his palm. "Kill!" Immediately, 5 demonic humans charged at Yi Chen. 5 late Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans were enough to make ordinary half-step kings retreat. As far as Iron Bones was concerned, Yi Chen, who wasn't a half-step king, wouldn't be able to block even a single move. However, he was wrong. Without even drawing his sword, Yi Chen raised his right index and middle fingers and casually waved. With a swoosh, a dark golden ripple spread out. The 5 demonic humans spurted out blood, and a bone-deep wound appeared on their chests. Then, they fell toward the ocean below. "All of you go. You two deal with that woman. You must capture her." Iron Bones was gobsmacked as he roared. "No matter how many come, they'll all die." Yi Chen's fingers moved like lightning, condensing a small thunderball at the tip. Puff, puff, puff. 3 soft sounds rang out, and the 3 demonic humans had a charred hole on their foreheads. The hole didn't seem big, but the back of their heads had exploded into nothingness. They didn't even see how Yi Chen had attacked, and died without knowing why. On the other side, the 2 demonic humans fighting with Murong Qingqing were indescribably frightened. The demonic chi on their bodies immediately crumbled the moment it struck Murong Qingqing's body, not posing any threat at all. It was as if Murong Qingqing was a black hole devouring demonic chi. Rip! With a palm chop, Murong Qingqing chopped off the head of a demonic human. The other demonic human gathered his courage and punched at her. Murong Qingqing's right hand grabbed the opponent's head first, and an extremely pure demonic power gathered in her palm. You too, the demonic human's eyes widened. He could feel that Murong Qingqing's palm didn't contain Jin Yuan, but pure demonic power. This kind of demonic power could only be possessed by a perfect demonic human bloodline. Moreover, it was a woman. If he brought this news back, the entire demonic human race would be shaken. Unfortunately, he wouldn't have the chance. Murong Qingqing's demonic power shot out from her palm, and the demonic human's head was immediately annihilated. Iron Bones didn't have the mind to care about Murong Qingqing's side. All of his attention was on Yi Chen. In just a split second, the 8 demonic humans attacking Yi Chen had all died miserably. Moreover, he himself was actually not Yi Chen's opponent. His entire body was in pain, and his bones were on the verge of breaking. "This armor piece's defense isn't bad," Yi Chen said unhurriedly. His finger suddenly pierced through Iron Bones' defense and swept across his throat. Puff! A putrid blood sprayed out. Iron Bones clutched his neck and fell from the sky. Chapter 770. On the other side, the white-robed woman's group was surrounded by more than 20 demonic humans. They were barely able to hold on until now because the Silvermoon White Fox race's members had an advantage in speed and agility. Secondly, the White Fox phantom behind the white-robed woman was abnormally agile. The silver crescent moon on her forehead flickered from time to time, emitting a clear silver radiance. This silver radiance would immediately stick to the members of the Silvermoon White Fox race the moment it came into contact with them. The members of the Silvermoon White Fox race, who were enveloped by the silver radiance, all had their battle prowess greatly increase, and were no longer afraid of death. However, the demonic humans not only had more people, but they also had more experts than the Silvermoon White Fox race. The reason they had been fighting until now was because they wanted to win without losing a single person. If there were no accidents, the Silvermoon White Fox race wouldn't be able to cause any wave. What? Iron Bones was killed? The middle-aged demonic man, who hadn't exerted his full strength, took a glance at Yi Chen's side. What entered his eyes was Iron Bone clutching his neck and falling down from the sky, blood gushing out from between his fingers. Meanwhile, Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing were completely unharmed. This discovery shocked him greatly. Although Iron Bones wasn't as strong as him, he didn't dare to ignore the defensive power of the demonized bone armor. "Don't fight anymore. Kill everyone except her." The middle-aged demonic human decisively decided to end the battle quickly. He would first capture the white-robed woman and then reorganize his men to deal with Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing. He wanted them to pay a heavy price. As he spoke, the middle-aged demonic human didn't stay idle either. He held a long spear as thick as a bowl and thrust it towards the white-robed woman's chest. The white-robed woman's cultivation wasn't weak. She was a genuine half-step demonic beast king. Her movement technique was agile, and her clothes fluttered in the wind as she slashed out with her sword. Clang! The dragon-like spear shadow collided with the silver semicircle sword energy and exploded into thousands of lights. In terms of agility, the white-robed woman was naturally above the middle-aged demonic human. However, in terms of attack power, she was much weaker. This short exchange made her feel as if she was struck by lightning. She couldn't help but spit out a small mouthful of blood, staining the white robe in front of her chest. "Lose for me." The middle-aged demonic man's eyes were ferocious as he swung his spear at the white-clothed woman. Facing this thunderous attack, the white-clothed woman who had lost the initiative was about to be struck by the spear. Dang! Right at this moment, a crescent-shaped sword energy flew over from afar. It was like a dazzling aurora, but also like a heavenly dog eating the moon. It struck the middle-aged demonic man's spear, causing it to fly out of his hand. The middle-aged demonic man's mouth started to bleed, and a layer of skin was scraped off. Puff! The spear flew out of his hand like a skewer of candied haws, piercing through the group of demonic men in a straight line. The remaining force of the crescent-shaped sword energy was even more ferocious. With a single blow, most of the demonic men, including the middle-aged demonic man, were swept away, dying miserably. It turned out that at the crucial moment, Yi Chen had made his move, and his first move was the peerlessly powerful waning moon. The white-clothed woman cried out in shock. She was frightened by the scene in front of her. "It's him!" The Silvermoon White Fox race, whose pressure had been greatly reduced, noticed that the one who had attacked was Yi Chen, who was wielding the thunder sword. He had attacked from several li away. Damn it! With just one sword, the demonic men had suffered heavy casualties. Only a few of them were left. The middle-aged demonic man's mouth was bleeding, and his chest felt stuffy. He was pushed back several li by the crescent-shaped sword energy. All the bones in his body were on the verge of breaking, especially his arms, which had suffered the most damage. He could barely lift them up. Raising his head, the middle-aged demonic man looked at Yi Chen with a venomous gaze and said, "You're dead. In the chaotic demonic sea, no one has ever dared to provoke my demonic man race. Those who kill will always be killed. If the other party hadn't provoked him first, Yi Chen wouldn't have been so ruthless. But since the other party wanted to kill, he couldn't be blamed." I want to see how you're going to kill me." The middle-aged demonic man roared towards the sky. Circles of evil black rings spread out. These black rings were like living creatures, twisting towards the injured demonic man next to him. Amidst the miserable screams of the other, the black rings sucked out all of his essence, chi, flesh and blood, and then filled the middle-aged demonic man's body. Crackle! The middle-aged demonic man's body twisted and swelled, as if there were countless snakes slithering under his skin. It was extremely disgusting and cruel, giving people a hair-raising feeling. Rumble! The demonic chi on the middle-aged demonic man was already very dense. After devouring a large amount of essence chi, the demonic chi fluctuations immediately caused the weather to change. Dark clouds gathered in the sky, and black lightning bolts danced everywhere. Crack! A black lightning bolt struck the middle-aged demonic man's body. As the demonic chi retracted, everyone could clearly see the middle-aged demonic man's appearance. Demonic man! The middle-aged demonic man looked no different from a demonic man. His skin had turned black and keratinized. His elbows, shoulders, knees, and ankles had sharp, curved bones. His feet and palms had turned into claws. His fingernails were as sharp as knives, and they were purple-black. His eyes were blood-red, and the whites of his eyes had disappeared. Roar! The middle-aged demonic man roared at Yi Chen. The human part of his voice had already disappeared, leaving behind only cruelty and ruthlessness. Be careful! Although the demonic man has lost most of his reason, his speed and strength have increased explosively. It's equivalent to overdrafting his life force and potential. His regenerative ability has also increased tenfold. As a demonic human, Murong Qingqing was very clear about the demonic man. Even a part of it had the side effect of eroding one's intelligence, not to mention the complete demonic man. Although the demonic human's lifespan was greatly reduced, their strength was frightening. This is the first time I've seen a complete demonic man. Yi Chen also knew about the complete demonic man. This was the reason why some people on True Spirit Continent were targeting demonic humans. Of course, as far as Yi Chen was concerned, demonic humans were not much of a threat. After all, there were too few of them, and they couldn't stir up any waves. "Young master, many thanks for saving us." The white-robed woman and the rest could see the middle-aged demonic man's frightening strength, so they flew to Yi Chen's side. Yi Chen said, "It's nothing much. There's no need to thank me." "Young master, don't be careless. The reason why demonic humans can dominate chaotic demon ocean is not only because this is chaotic demon ocean, but also because they can transform completely. This man is one of the most powerful half-step demonic human kings. Once he transforms completely, he will be extremely frightening." Clearly, the white-robed woman had some understanding of demonic humans. Yi Chen faintly nodded. "You'll all die." The middle-aged demonic man bent his knee and fiercely shot out. Xiao! The distance of several li seemed to have been ignored, and even Yi Chen couldn't see its exact trajectory. Clang! While everyone was dumbfounded, Yi Chen made his move. He raised his sword to meet the middle-aged demonic man's claw, causing sparks to fly everywhere. Clang! 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 Following that, the middle-aged demonic man launched a series of attacks. His attack trajectories flickered, and besides Yi Chen, no one could see them clearly. If it weren't for Yi Chen, he would have been killed in a single move. This was the destructive power of extreme speed. With the spiritual sword, although Yi Chen couldn't see the middle-aged demonic man's movement trajectory, he was always able to block the other's attack. Die. After attacking for a long time without success, the middle-aged demonic man became even more ruthless. His eyes turned red as he drew scarlet arcs in the air, creating a soul-stirring scene. Ding 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 ding. The speed at which the two exchanged blows was unimaginably fast. Suddenly, Yi Chen yelled with a low voice, "9-sword attack." With a clang, the blood remnant sword at his waist automatically unsheathed. Under Yi Chen's control, it divided into 3, 3 into 5, 5 into 9. 9 sword images circled around, moving as fast as the Aurora Phantom. Even the middle-aged demonic man couldn't completely dodge the flying swords, and was slashed countless times. Swish! The middle-aged demonic man's legs shot out, escaping the range of the flying swords. The middle-aged demonic man's abdomen, back, and legs had several bone-deep sword scars. The one on his chest was the result of Yi Chen's spiritual sword. The sword chi pierced through the skin and injured the opponent's internal organs. However, in the next moment, everyone frowned. The flesh inside the middle-aged demonic man's wound wriggled like worms, joining together and entangling with each other. As the insides healed, his hard skin automatically healed, leaving behind only a faint scar. If one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't be able to see it. What a powerful regenerative ability! This was the first time Yi Chen had seen an ability below life and death realm that could rival his undying body. Just this point alone was enough for the middle-aged demonic man to grind to death people on the same level as him. Hee, I'll see how long you can last. The middle-aged demonic man's mouth curled, and his expression turned fierce. Bring it on. Go. His left hand pointed, and the blood remnant sword turned into 9 sword images once more. Get lost! The middle-aged demonic man roared, and his body fiercely spun like a spinning top. His claws, feet, elbows, and knees all deflected the 9 sword images, leaving him unscathed. With a swish, the middle-aged demonic man's body flickered, drawing an arc in the void as he attacked Yi Chen from the side. Sword light flight art. The Zhen Yuan outside Yi Chen's body surged, and 5 sword lights formed a pair of simple sword wings on his back. With a swish, he dodged the attack. Puff puff puff. The middle-aged demonic man no longer had any rationality, but his battle instincts were even stronger. 3 sharp spikes shot out from his back, enveloping Yi Chen. Ding ding. Yi Chen didn't expect the middle-aged demonic man to have this kind of move. Caught off guard, he only managed to deflect 2 of the spikes, while the third one landed on his protective Zhen Yuan. With a pring sound, the protective Zhen Yuan didn't break. At the crucial moment, Yi Chen activated his bronze armor, greatly increasing his defense. Die! The middle-aged demonic man turned around and pounced over. You're the one who's going to die. Yi Chen stopped his backward momentum and did not try to dodge. Instead, he jumped forward. Rumble! The collision of the two caused a huge tsunami, which spread out in all directions and reached hundreds of meters high. Above the distorted space, Yi Chen and the middle-aged demonic man pressed against each other due to the powerful inertia, creating a time-like effect. When the effect disappeared, the middle-aged demonic man's left hand turned into a fist and punched at Yi Chen's chest. However, Yi Chen didn't try to block this move. Instead, he raised his Thunder Disaster sword and slashed at the middle-aged demonic man's head. His sword's speed was even faster than the opponent's. Poochie! A head flew up while Yi Chen was also sent flying, spurting out a small mouthful of blood. Chapter 771. Strictly speaking, the middle-aged demonic man's strength was more or less the same as Yi Chen's. The middle-aged demonic man's speed was fast and his profound martial skills were powerful, but the latter's sword speed was faster and his profound martial skills were more powerful. The reason for this outcome was not strength, but intelligence. After the middle-aged demonic man had completely demonized, he had lost more than half of his intelligence. He was single-mindedly focused on killing Yi Chen, completely disregarding his own life and death. This kind of fearless style was good, but one couldn't blindly pursue it. That would be courting death. Seeing through the middle-aged man's weakness, Yi Chen took a punch at the last moment and killed him. The process was just that simple. Wisdom is something that high-level beings cannot lack. Yi Chen shook his head. Of course, Yi Chen wasn't mocking the middle-aged man's stupidity. After all, the middle-aged man wasn't a complete demonization, so he wasn't his match. Dead. The white-robed lady's eyes shrunk in shock. Yi Chen's strength was beyond her imagination. Even half-step demonic beast kings of the Silvermoon White Fox tribe wouldn't be Yi Chen's match. Miss, this kid is probably a disciple of some super clan or sect. He probably came to the chaotic demonic ocean to train himself. The old man beside the white-robed lady said. The more powerful a force was, the more outstanding disciples they could cultivate. The two were directly proportional. To be called a super force, it was at least peak 5th grade or even 4th grade. From the old man's point of view, Yi Chen's background was absolutely terrifying. It wasn't something ordinary people could imagine. Elder Gu, I don't care who he is. I only know that he saved all of our lives. The white-robed lady said. That's true. The old man called Elder Gu smiled faintly and curiously sized up Yi Chen. The middle-aged man was dead after his head was chopped off. His neck spurted out a large amount of blood, and his flesh was wriggling like slimy worms. Unfortunately, he hadn't reached the flesh derivation realm, so he couldn't escape death. The middle-aged man wasn't an exception. Splash! After struggling for a moment, the headless middle-aged man fell from the sky and into the sea, sinking instantly. In this battle, more than 30 human devils were completely annihilated. I am Yu Bingxin, a disciple of the Silvermoon White Fox clan. May I know your name? Yu Bingxin took a deep breath and stepped on the void, slowly arriving in front of Yi Chen. I am Yi Chen. Putting away the Thunder Disaster Sword, Yi Chen looked at Yu Bingxin and said, I can't thank you enough for your kindness. If young Master Yi doesn't mind, you and Miss Murong can come to my house as guests. I can entertain the two of you. Yi Chen shook his head and said, There's no need for that. I'm not familiar with this place yet. You can just introduce me to it as repayment for saving my life. You two don't know this place? Yu Bingxin asked. I only heard you say that this is the chaotic demonic ocean, but I don't know the specifics. Nodding, Yu Bingxin said, This place is indeed the chaotic demonic ocean. The reason why it is called the chaotic demonic ocean is because there is a vast amount of demonic chi leaking out from an unknown place at the bottom of the ocean, turning this ocean into a demonic ocean. There are many powers here, but the overlord is the demonic human clan. It is said that the demonic human clan migrated here from another place hundreds of years ago. At that time, this was just an ordinary ocean, and there was no demonic human clan here. Yu Bingxin explained slowly. Migrated here hundreds of years ago? From where? Could there be a large number of demonic human clan in other places? Hearing this, Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing had many questions. But from the others' tone, they didn't seem to know much about the origin of the demonic human clan. What is the strength of the demonic human clan here? The one who asked this question was Murong Qingqing. Yu Bingxin honestly replied, terrifyingly strong. In the chaotic demonic ocean, there are 10 great demonic human clans. Each clan has a demonic human king overseeing it. The strongest clan has 3 demonic human kings, and one of them might be a demonic human emperor. Demonic human emperor? Is this true? Murong Qingqing was slightly astonished. True Spirit Continent also had demonic human kings, and 2 of them at that. However, there was not a single demonic human emperor. Who would have thought that there would be a demonic human emperor in the chaotic demonic ocean? This is only a rumor, but I believe that it is most likely true. Otherwise, the 5th grade powers around chaotic demonic ocean wouldn't be so apprehensive. Moreover, a world-shaking battle took place in the chaotic demonic ocean 100 years ago. The scale of that battle was extremely vast, and even the zenith sky was torn apart. The space became chaotic, and it should have been the result of a battle between a titled monarch and a demonic human emperor. Yu Bingxin spoke everything she knew. Perhaps this chaotic demonic ocean is the headquarters of the demonic human clan in Elysium. In the past, Yi Chen thought that the demonic human clan was not a threat, and that the low number of demonic human kings and demonic human clans was their biggest weakness. But now, he didn't think so. It turned out that there was a place called Chaotic Demonic Ocean outside of True Spirit Continent. We can't stay here for long. The demonic human clan raises millions of 4-winged black demonic insects. They don't have much intelligence, but they can transmit what they see back. They are the eyes of the demonic human clan in the entire chaotic demonic ocean. If we are discovered by them, we won't be able to escape even if we grow wings. As if thinking of something, Yu Bingxin said anxiously. Hearing Yu Bingxin's words, Yi Chen was inwardly astonished at the demonic human clan's control over chaotic demonic ocean. It wasn't that he hadn't seen these 4-winged black demonic insects before. In his early years, when he was merely at Condensing Reality Realm, he had encountered the 4-winged black demonic insects raised by Corpseman's subordinate. In terms of battle strength, they were equivalent to 3rd-grade demonic beasts. However, when their numbers reached millions, they were extremely frightening. Most importantly, they weren't used for battle, but for scouting. In that case, let's leave this place first. Yi Chen wasn't arrogant enough to think that he could challenge the demonic human clan, so he nodded at Yu Bingxin. Not long after Yi Chen's group left, a large number of squeaking sounds came from afar. Before long, a black cloud rapidly moved over. This was naturally not a real cloud, but a black shadow formed by a large number of chopstick-shaped insects. At a glance, there were at least several thousand of them. These insects were exactly the same as the 4-winged black demonic insects that Yi Chen had seen before. However, they were much smaller, only 3 inches long. They were slender and black, with 4 pairs of thin black wings on their back. Their heads were spherical, filled with silver-gray compound eyes. Everything in the surroundings was reflected in these compound eyes. The cloud, formed by the 4-winged black demonic insects, flew over the sea. Under the sunlight, the cloud's shadow followed closely behind. Splash! A 5th-grade demonic fish thought that the shadow was some kind of prey. It suddenly broke out of the water and opened its mouth, revealing a mouthful of sharp teeth. Buzz! The 4-winged black demonic insects were well disciplined, but dozens of them at the edge couldn't resist the temptation and suddenly left the group. Their 4 pairs of wings flapped rapidly, like black lights, piercing through the 5th-grade demonic fish's body. In just a short moment, the 5th-grade demonic fish was eaten until only an empty shell was left, falling into the sea. Satisfied, the 4-winged black demonic insects squeaked a few times and followed the group. If Yi Chen was here, he would definitely be incomparably shocked. In his impression, the 4-winged black demonic insects could only fight against 3rd-grade demonic beasts. Even if there were dozens of them, it was impossible for them to eat a 5th-grade demonic fish until only an empty shell was left. There was only one answer. These 4-winged black demonic insects were not 3rd grade, but 4th grade. The chaotic demonic sea was vast and had countless islands. On an ordinary island, Yu Bingxin's group was bidding farewell to Yi Chen and Murong Yu. Young Master Yi, Miss Murong, we will take our leave first. If you have time, you can come visit my clan. My Silvermoon White Fox clan is located 50 million li to the northwest, on the Moonlight Island. Yu Bingxin's voice was clear and melodious. "All right, I'll come visit when I have time." Yi Chen faintly nodded. Yu Bingxin revealed a smile. "We still have matters to attend to, so we'll take our leave first. Let's go." After saying these words, Yu Bingxin led her clansmen and flew off the island. Watching them leave, Yi Chen said to Morong Qingqing, "This place is too close to the scene of the incident. It's not very safe. Let's find another island and enter secluded cultivation." The large amount of Zhen Yuan and demonic crystals they had obtained on the Devouring Island was enough for the two to squander. The two were also preparing to break through to Half-Step King Realm. And Murong Qingqing still had demonic power essence left in her body. Her chances of breaking through to Half-Step King Realm in a short time were quite high. Riding the flying puppet for 3 days and 3 nights, the two arrived at a desolate island. After opening up their respective secluded cultivation spots, the two officially entered secluded cultivation. In the blink of an eye, more than half a month had passed. The news of more than 30 demonic humans being killed had long since reached the demonic human clan, causing quite a commotion. In the past few days, the number of 4-winged black demonic insects in the sky above chaotic demonic ocean had been increasing. Among the thousands of 4-winged black demonic insects, there were even smaller 6-winged black demonic insects. Such a huge commotion naturally made the martial artists in chaotic demonic ocean anxious. In the distant southeast, a huge golden bird with a wingspan of more than 30 meters was rushing toward chaotic demonic ocean with a dozen people on its back. Crown Prince, chaotic demonic ocean is the territory of demonic human clan. If we enter, we might attract their attention. On the back of the huge golden bird was the Crown Prince of Blackwater Alliance, Wang Tai. At this moment, the tall old man beside Wang Tai spoke with some hesitation. With his hands behind his back, Wang Tai gazed at the scenery before him and said, "Although the demonic human clan is powerful, my Blackwater Alliance is not weak either. I believe that the demonic human clan will not purposely target us. They will most likely give us some face. As for that brat, no matter where he escapes, I will drag him out. My Blackwater Alliance's Zhen Yuan crystals are not for anyone to swallow." 2 million Zhen Yuan crystals was not a small number. It should be known that although Devouring Island was ruled by Blackwater Alliance, apart from its own consumption, Blackwater Alliance had to allocate a portion to some life and death kings who knew about it. Thus, Blackwater Alliance's annual stockpile was no more than 1 million Zhen Yuan crystals. The 2 million Zhen Yuan crystals Yi Chen had plundered were equivalent to 2 years of Blackwater Alliance's stockpile. Crown Prince's words are not without reason, but chaotic demonic ocean is boundless. Finding the two won't be easy. I'm worried that they might be captured by the demonic human clan. Demonic human clan has always been tyrannical, and they won't hand over the Zhen Yuan crystals they've obtained. The tall old man voiced out his worries. Then let's hope they live a little longer. If they're captured by the demonic human clan, death is certain. Clearly, Wang Tai was also extremely apprehensive of the demonic human clan. This was a frightening power that even Blackwater Alliance couldn't afford to provoke. Chapter 772. While Wang Tai was searching for Yi Chen, the experts of the demonic human clan were also searching for the murderer of their clansman. For a long time, the human devil clan had been the overlord of the chaotic demon sea. As long as the 10 great families willed it, they could uproot and annihilate all forces in the chaotic demon sea except for the human devil clan. But now, someone had killed more than 30 of their clansmen, 3 of whom had already reached Half-Step King Realm. This was simply unforgivable. The demonic human clan couldn't be compared to humans. The number of humans was too great, numbering in the trillions, thousands of times more than the demonic humans. Therefore, it didn't matter how many died. Moreover, demonic human clan's reproduction rate was much lower than humans. Adding on the fact that their population was small, 1 death meant 1 less. Moreover, half-step kings were the wealth of the demonic human clan. They were existences with hopes of becoming kings. Losing 3 at once was not a small loss. Therefore, the demonic human clan dispatched a lot of experts this time, more than any time in the past. Merely mid-sea of soul realm and above demonic humans numbered 600. 6 half-step demon human kings. The 600 sea of soul realm demonic humans were divided into 3 groups, each led by 2 half-step demonic human kings. Apart from that, millions of 4-winged black demonic insects had also become the eyes of the demonic humans. As soon as a suspect appeared in their sight, they would immediately notice and rush over. This was not enough to show how much importance the demonic human clan attached to this matter. Apart from Sea of Soul Realm and half-step kings, the clan also dispatched a genuine demonic human king. Demonic human king was a king of the demonic human clan. Under similar cultivation bases, 2 life and death kings could contend against it. Buzz 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 with the scene as the center, group after group of 4-winged black demonic insects flew out like an inescapable net, slowly spreading out. Once this inescapable net took shape, one would truly be left with no path to the heavens and no door to the earth, unless one entered stunning sky or extreme void sky. However, one couldn't stay in these 2 skies for long. Stunning sky was filled with all kinds of pure yuan qi. Upon entering, one's Jin yuan would be consumed at a rapid pace. Extreme void sky was even more tyrannical, consuming 10 times faster than stunning sky. Pop! Above the ocean where the incident happened, a mass of black gas suddenly appeared. Within the black gas was a lean old man dressed in black with a profound aura. The skinny old man looked down and scanned the surroundings. Soon, the skinny old man found a wreckage at the bottom of the sea. This wreckage was the corpse of a demonic human. After being eaten by the demonic fish, it was badly mutilated, leaving only bits of flesh on the bones. The wreckage was pulled up by a mysterious force and floated in front of the old man. Stretching out his right hand, the old man exerted his strength through the air and abruptly inhaled qi. An almost inaudible sound of something tearing through the air rang out. As the old man exerted his strength to inhale, a faintly discernible aura shot out from the wreckage. The black-robed old man carefully grasped this wisp of aura and sensed something. Peak late sea of soul realm cultivation base, destruction sword intent. A moment later, the black-robed old man slowly spat out a few words. If Yi Chen were here, he would certainly be astonished. Not only could this man gather a wisp of faintly discernible aura from the wreckage, he could also discern the cultivation base and the sword intent he was using. This kind of ability was already not something a half-step king could accomplish. Only a life and death king could accomplish this. Killing a half-step king of my demonic human race with a cultivation base of peak late sea of soul realm. I wonder which power this person came from. Could it be the Blood Sword Palace? Not likely. Although the young master of the Blood Sword Palace is also at peak late sea of soul realm, his strength is inferior to this person. Moreover, the young master didn't comprehend the destruction sword intent. Apart from the young master of the Blood Sword Palace, who has a cultivation base of peak late sea of soul realm, there aren't many who can battle higher realms. The black-robed old man's gaze turned profound as he inwardly speculated. Whether he's from the Blood Sword Palace or not, killing a half-step king of my demonic human race will have to pay a sufficient price. Letting out a breath, the black-robed old man's gaze turned sharp. The wreckage couldn't bear the pressure of the old man's gaze and exploded, turning into nothingness. Breaking through from peak late sea of soul realm to half-step king realm was a huge breakthrough, as well as a brand new beginning. Under half-step king realm, the meridians were the circulation channels of Zhen Yuan. If the meridians were damaged, the circulation of Zhen Yuan would become sluggish, greatly reducing one's battle power. However, upon reaching half-step king realm, not only the meridians, but also the blood circulation channels of Zhen Yuan. Only by fusing Zhen Yuan into the blood and forming a perfect circulation could one be considered to have officially stepped into half-step king realm. However, achieving this was extremely difficult. Without outstanding talent and extraordinary willpower, half-step king realm was like a flower in the mirror or the moon in the water. One could only stare at it helplessly. Fusing Zhen Yuan into the blood was not a safe thing to do. The slightest bit of carelessness could lead to blood necrosis, weakening one's bodily functions, and reducing one's physical strength to the level of an old man past his prime. This was also the reason why half-step kings usually appeared in 5th grade and 4th grade powers. The chances of half-step kings appearing in 5th grade and below were extremely low. This was because when a 5th grade powers member tried to break through to half-step king realm, even if something went wrong, they would have life and death kings to help them adjust their chi and blood. Or, they could spend a huge price to refine some precious medicinal pellets to treat blood necrosis. In short, as long as there was a life and death king, breaking through to half-step king realm wouldn't be too dangerous. At worst, they could just wait until their body recovered and continue. Of course, this was a matter of having the ability to break through to half-step king realm. If one didn't, it wouldn't have anything to do with them. Yi Chen had already consolidated his peak late sea of soul realm. In theory, he could attempt to break through to half-step king realm. Although without many years of accumulation, the chances of success were low, it wasn't impossible. Inside the spacious and simple cave, Yi Chen sat cross-legged on the hard ground with his palms facing the sky. Inside his body, Yi Chen's Zhen Yuan flowed out of his dantian and slowly poured into his blood, attempting to fuse with it and circulate his Zhen Yuan. There were many blood channels in the human body, and there were even more minute details. It was impossible to fuse them one by one. However, although breaking through to half-step king realm was difficult, it didn't require one to fuse all the blood at once. One only needed to fuse a part of the blood and complete a perfect circulation. This process was complicated and slow, requiring extreme patience. One couldn't be impatient at all. In the beginning, the process was quite smooth. In a short half a month, Yi Chen made progress every day, and he was getting closer and closer to the perfect circulation of Zhen Yuan and blood. However, as time passed, Yi Chen discovered that the further he went, the slower his progress became. Now, even after a few days, he hadn't made even the slightest bit of progress. It turned out that there was a time limit for Zhen Yuan to fuse with the blood. After this time limit, the Zhen Yuan would withdraw from the blood. Only by completing a perfect circulation would the Zhen Yuan remain in the blood forever. However, it was simply too difficult. The speed at which the blood flowed was not very fast, not to mention that it was a perfect cycle. Every time a cycle was completed halfway, the true essence in the front would begin to withdraw. Although the true essence in the back would continue to fuse into the blood, it could only maintain a balance. This won't do. The Zhen Yuan isn't pure enough. The time it stays in the blood is too short. If it accelerates the blood flow, my heart won't be able to bear it. The reason why Yi Chen dared to break through to half-step king realm was because of his undying body. He didn't care about some minor injuries. However, the burden on his heart was too great, and it still exceeded the limits of his undying body. At most, he could only slightly overload it. After all, the heart was a major weakness of the human body, unlike other parts. Huff. Opening his eyes, Yi Chen forcefully exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and stood up. I wonder how Murong Qingqing is doing. Her demonic power is very pure, and her fourth-step demonic body is also stronger than my spirit body. She should have a high chance of entering half-step king realm. Murong Qingqing had demonic power essence in her body, which was the essence of king-grade demonic power. It had an extraordinary effect on refining demonic body. On the Devouring Island, her demonic body had successfully upgraded from 3rd step to 4th step, allowing her to break through to half-step king realm. Shaking his head, Yi Chen walked out of the cave and arrived at a spacious area outside. I've already obtained the foundation of Space Profound for a long time. My Space Profound has been steadily improving, approaching 40% completion. The Might of Void Shattering Finger containing Space Profound has also surpassed Golden Ripple. Unfortunately, Void Shattering Finger is a finger art without the amplification of a sword. Moreover, its variations are too little. If I could create my own Space Profound sword art based on Space Profound, its might would be able to catch up to Waning Moon. Only by combining profound martial arts with artifacts could one erupt with greater might. Using the Void Shattering Finger required artifact gloves, but since Yi Chen used a sword, wearing gloves would have a negative effect. Creating a Space Profound sword art was very useful to Yi Chen. Space Profound was one of the strongest Profound. 10% of it was equivalent to 30% of other Profound. Once it reached 40 to 50% completion, the Space Profound sword art created would surpass Waning Moon. Most importantly, Space Profound sword arts were unpredictable, far more threatening than Waning Moon. Standing on the empty ground, Yi Chen closed his eyes as an image appeared in his mind. It was a sword artist performing a sword art. This sword art was very mysterious and unpredictable. It was obvious that the sword was thrown out, but it was still very far away from the target, but in the next second, it had already destroyed the target. Plus, the sword art was extremely fast, creating a space-folding effect. Looking at it, one would not be able to tell the trajectory of the sword art at all. Clang! All of a sudden, Yi Chen opened his eyes and pulled out the Thunder Disaster Sword. Relying on his intuition, he slashed out 49 times, each sword faster than the previous one. One could see that Yi Chen's movements were exactly the same as the sword artist in his mind. However, the sword art's effect was not as good as the sword artist's in his mind. It could only make the sword art's trajectory blurry, creating countless afterimages, and was unable to create a spatial folding effect. Kacha, kacha, kacha. Even so, the surrounding boulders still shattered like broken mirrors. The ground beneath Yi Chen's feet also seemed to have turned into a huge piece of glass. Cracks spread everywhere before it collapsed with a loud rumble. This was not the effect of sword chi, but the power of space through sword arts. When Space Profound reached a certain level, no one under Life and Death realm would be able to receive a single sword strike from Yi Chen. After all, a single sword strike from Yi Chen would be equivalent to tearing the space apart. Under Life and Death realm, who could resist the tearing of space? Chapter 773. The tide slapped against the reefs at the edge of the island, again and again. Several li away from the island, a four-winged black demonic insect had unknowingly appeared there. Its body was motionless, and the 4 pairs of black wings on its back were rhythmically flapping up and down, maintaining an incomparably balanced state. At a glance, it seemed to be fixed there. The insect's head was round and full of compound eyes. At this moment, the scenery of the island appeared in its compound eyes. Some were near, some were far. The most bizarre thing was that it seemed to have a magnifying function. Before long, the image of a person appeared in its compound eyes. This person was none other than Yi Chen. Yi Chen still didn't know that he had been targeted by a 4-winged black demonic insect. After all, he was not an Iron Man, and couldn't release his soul power without restraint. Overconsumption of soul power would take a long time to recover. Not being able to recover in half a month was quite normal. After practicing sword arts for half a day, Yi Chen saw that Murong Qingqing wasn't moving at all. He knew that she was still trying to break through to half-step King Realm, so he didn't disturb her. Although he had failed to break through, he still had many other things to do. For example, comprehending Space Profound. The Space Profound he had obtained in the graveyard of 4 Extreme Emperor could be said to be a priceless treasure. With it, Yi Chen's speed of comprehending space had increased by several folds, and his own comprehension ability was several times that of ordinary people. With the two added together, it would be dozens of times, or even more than 20 times. Returning to the cave, Yi Chen sat cross-legged on the ground and took a deep breath, entering an ethereal state. Then, he released his incorporeal soul power, spreading it over several hundred meters. The smaller the range of soul power, the less soul power would be consumed. With Yi Chen's soul power, he could maintain it for 10 days to half a month. Soul power was a perception many times greater than the 5 senses. Under Yi Chen's control, he gradually captured the spatial ripples within several hundred meters. The space was constantly fluctuating. Of course, these fluctuations were very small, so small that they were negligible. But they were still there. Space was illusory and unfathomable. Soul power was incorporeal and unfathomable. Only soul power could capture spatial ripples. This was also the reason why all life and death kings would dabble in space profound. Their soul power was too powerful. According to the basic knowledge of space profound in his head, Yi Chen used his soul power to capture the space energy fluctuations while comprehending the space profound. In another cave, Murong Qingqing was sitting there with her legs crossed, unmoving. From time to time, a black brilliance blossomed from her body. This brilliance was sometimes strong, sometimes dim, sometimes ostentatious, and sometimes reserved. The interior of the cave was illuminated in a strange and dazzling light. At this moment, Murong Qingqing was in the late stage of the half-step demon king realm. She was different from Yi Chen. She had demonic power essence within her body, and the demonic power she refined was exceptionally pure. If not for the limitation of realm, refining demonic power into half-step king realm wouldn't be a problem. After all, the demonic power essence was the demonic power essence of a demon king. Rather than refining, it was more appropriate to describe it as diluting and refining. The demonic power essence was first diluted and then refined into her demonic power. With such pure demonic power, Murong Qingqing's chances of breaking through to half-step king realm were naturally higher than humans and other demonic humans. Apart from this, Murong Qingqing had another huge advantage. As a demonic human with perfect bloodline and a fourth-step demonic body, her life level was higher than that of humans and demonic beasts. She was close to the life level of the demon race. Therefore, her heart's ability to produce blood was extremely powerful, and her heart's capacity far surpassed humans of the same level. For example, Yi Chen's blood flow was similar to that of humans. But now, her blood flow had reached a frightening level, and her heart was beating at a frightening frequency. It was no longer beating, but vibrating. Swish. When blood flowed normally, no sound could be heard. But now, Murong Qingqing's blood was issuing a sound like a stream flowing down a mountain. Such a rapid flow caused Murong Qingqing's fair face to turn red, making her look like a red beauty. Above her head, white mist curled up, faintly emitting a red light and a faint bloody aura. It's here. A day later, a large group of uninvited guests arrived on the ocean outside the island. These uninvited guests were the troops of the demonic human clan. There were 202 of them, 2 half-step demonic human kings and 200 of soul realm demonic humans. They were able to find this place because of the information transmitted by the 4-winged black demonic insect. As for finding this place in a day, it was mainly because they weren't far from the island. As soon as they obtained the whereabouts of the suspects, they immediately rushed over. White Nightmare, I'm afraid we won't be able to catch them with just the 2 of us. Right now, our best course of action is to use an enchantment to seal the island and prevent them from escaping. Among the 2 half-step demonic human kings, a rather fat middle-aged demonic human said. The half-step demonic human king called White Nightmare had a very strange appearance. His head was bald and his face and head were covered in white spots. His eyes also had more whites than pupils, making them look like 2 black dots. He had no eyebrows and was emitting a sinister killing intent. That would be best. Let's use the hidden fog enchantment. White Nightmare nodded, his eyes fixated on the island. You 108 come out and surround the island. Use the hidden fog enchantment to seal the island. Don't let a fly or a bug escape. The fat demonic human ordered the demonic humans behind him. Yes. Without needing to be called out, 108 Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans walked out and flew along the edge of the island. Seeing his clansmen carrying out the order and surrounding the island, the fat demonic man let out a sigh and said, "Killing my clansmen in the chaotic demonic ocean. I wonder who the other party is. Could it be a half-step king of the Blood Sword Palace, or someone from the Skull Island?" White Nightmare sneered, "Be it Blood Sword Palace or Skull Island, killing my clansmen will have to pay the price. That's natural. Although Blood Sword Palace and Skull Island are powerful, they're still lacking compared to my clan." The fat demonic human chuckled. As the two of them spoke, 108 light black pillars suddenly rose from the outer edge of the island. The pillars rose in an arc and collided with each other in the sky above the island. In the next moment, the island was covered by a light black membrane. The scene inside distorted and then disappeared completely. The light black membrane also gradually turned into mist. From the outside, it seemed as if there was no island at all. There was only thick black mist, rolling and surging. Success. Seeing this, the fat demonic human heaved a sigh of relief, and the smile on his face became even more radiant. "I'll go test him," White Nightmare said indifferently before his figure flickered and shot toward the surging black mist. "White Nightmare, don't be impulsive." The fat demonic human was startled. "Rest assured, you still don't believe in my strength. Moreover, with the hidden fog enchantment, you can attack and retreat at will." White Nightmare's voice resounded. Hearing these words, the fat demonic human smiled bitterly. He was naturally aware of White Nightmare's strength. Of the three half-step kings who had died half a month ago, the strongest was Ghoulie. Ghoulie could be considered a powerful half-step king among the demonic humans. However, White Nightmare's strength was a level higher than Ghoulie's. He was a peak half-step king of the demonic human clan. Under the same level, a demonic human was equivalent to two humans. White Nightmare could contend against two peak half-step kings without any problem. However, the opponent could kill three half-step kings, including Ghoulie, as well as more than 30 Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans. His strength was no small matter. With White Nightmare's strength, he might not be able to deal with him easily. Fortunately, as White Nightmare had said, with the hidden fog enchantment, he could attack and retreat at will. There was no need to worry about his safety. Fine, let's see how strong this person is first. If he can be dealt with, there's no need to wait for others. With this thought in mind, the fat demonic human followed. On the island, Yi Chen, who was comprehending the space profound, felt something amiss. Previously, he could still feel the gale blowing through the mountain. But now, the gale had stopped, and the island was completely silent, as if it had been isolated from the world. Buzz. His soul power, which was only several hundred meters wide, suddenly expanded, instantly covering the entire island and continuing to spread out. Not good. It's an enchantment. His soul power was obstructed by a layer of barrier, as if it had sunk into a swamp. In his soul perception, there was a boundless black fog surging out. Rip! With a flash of sword light, Yi Chen broke out of the mountain and appeared above the island. The ocean outside the island had disappeared from his line of sight, replaced by layers of black fog. It was exactly the same as in his soul perception. At this moment, an opening appeared in the black fog, and two figures flew in. Demonic humans! Yi Chen squinted his eyes. They were naturally White Nightmare and the fat demonic human. They had also noticed Yi Chen. "Are you the one who killed my demonic human clansman?" the fat demonic human shouted. Yi Chen said without batting an eyelid, "I'm afraid you're not here to ask whether I'm a murderer or not. So, why bother asking?" With the demonic human race's tyranny, As long as he was a suspect, it didn't matter if he was the murderer or not. Then you're the murderer. White Nightmare sized up Yi Chen and said coldly. Correct. Yi Chen didn't plan to hide it. There was no point in hiding it. Very good. Being able to kill Ghoulie means you have some strength. White Nightmare, will test you first. Hearing Yi Chen admit that he was the murderer, White Nightmare released his killing intent like a devil. Bring it on then. Yi Chen was confident that he could break the barrier. The barrier was actually a method of using spatial power, but it was powered by formations. With the void-shattering finger, it shouldn't be hard to open a path through the barrier. However, he couldn't leave the island right now. Murong still hadn't come out, which meant that she was in a crucial moment of breaking into the Half-Step King realm. Once interrupted, she would need a long time to break into the Half-Step King realm again. The details were very complicated. Therefore, he had to observe the situation first. Do along, don't do anything. I'll deal with him. White Nightmare said to the fat demonic human. Be careful. The fat demonic human took a step back and glanced at the place where Murong Qingqing was cultivating. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Chapter 774. White Nightmare didn't have the perfect demonic human bloodline, so he still cultivated Zhen Yuan. However, his Zhen Yuan was contaminated with a large amount of demonic qi. This demonic qi mixed with Zhen Yuan, but not only did it not decrease the destructive power of Zhen Yuan, it instead made it even more berserk. As White Nightmare circulated his Zhen Yuan with all his strength, an ash-gray qi flow appeared outside his body and violently revolved around him. A frightening pressure swept out in all directions, dispersing much of the black mist at the edge of the island. Some of the small hills on the island even turned into ashes, scattering between the heaven and earth. Although this cultivation base is not as good as Blackwater Alliance's Wang Tai, it's not the slightest bit inferior to Flame Burst King. In terms of pressure, Flame Burst King is a lot weaker. Seems like Demonic Human Clan is worthy of being the ruler of chaotic demonic ocean. Their resources are unimaginable. Half-Step King was a process of accumulating Zhen Yuan. The more vigorous the Zhen Yuan, the more hope one had of reaching peak Half-Step King, and the chance of breaking through to life and death realm. If one's Zhen Yuan accumulation was insufficient, then breaking through to life and death realm would be a long way off. It was extremely difficult for a Half-Step King to accumulate Zhen Yuan. If one cultivated with upper-grade spirit stones, one might not be able to reach peak Half-Step King in 100 years. Cultivating with supreme-grade spirit stones would increase the speed by many folds, and the best choice was none other than Zhen Yuan crystals. This was a shortcut. Unfortunately, supreme-grade spirit stones were too hard to find. Even 5th-grade sects might not have much in stock, and Zhen Yuan crystals could only be produced by Life and Death Kings. Flame Burst King's cultivation base was so deep because he was trapped on Devouring Island. Every month, he would have a lot of Zhen Yuan crystals for cultivation. Wang Tai's cultivation base was twice that of Flame Burst King, and he was suspected to be a strongest Half-Step King. This was also because he was an important figure of Blackwater Alliance, so he didn't need to worry about Zhen Yuan crystals. The Thunder Spirit King from the True Spirit Continent was one of the top Half-Step King warriors, so it would be impossible for him to have an endless amount of extreme-rank spirit stones, not to mention Zhen Yuan crystals. He might have been lucky enough to get some other treasures to increase his cultivation, since he was not that old after all. If he were to rely on accumulating his cultivation, it would take him at least dozens of years to reach that level. Therefore, Yi Chen clearly understood that cultivation talent was important, but so were resources. For example, in Half-Step King Realm, if one had sufficient resources, one's cultivation base could increase by 10 times, or even dozens of times. Others wouldn't be able to catch up no matter how hard they tried. Bang! He took a step forward and energy ripples spread in all directions. By how roared! His arms turned into countless phantoms, attacking Yi Chen fiercely. The space in front of White Nightmare distorted, and a large amount of grayish-white energy shot out like sharp blades. Some spun, some slashed, and some collided with each other, changing directions. In an instant, the dense grayish-white energy was like an inescapable net, enveloping Yi Chen's figure. Yi Chen's eyes were sharp as he observed the trajectory of the chi flow. He then pulled out his Thunder Disaster sword, slashing upwards, slashing sideways, sweeping, and stabbing. Although there were a lot of gray chi flows, none of them could get within 3 meters of Yi Chen. It was as if this area was an absolute domain that nothing could get close to. Dang! In the void, some of the chi flows collided and changed directions again. However, it was futile. Yi Chen's spiritual sword was extremely fast and silent. Sometimes, the chi flows were clearly coming from behind Yi Chen. Yi Chen was intercepting the chi flows in front of him, but they would be shattered by the time they got within 3 meters. Yi Chen simply didn't know when Yi Chen would counterattack. Under the life and death realm, Yi Chen's sword arts were already at an unfathomable realm. Any offensive techniques would be useless against him. As if realizing this, White Nightmare gave up on fighting speed and switched to a powerful killing move. Void Forcing Chop. White Nightmare roared, and his sturdy right hand turned into a bone blade. Grayish-white chi curled around the bone blade as he launched a powerful strike at Yi Chen. Rip! Grayish-white blade chi slashed down with peerless tyranny. Yi Chen's body slanted upwards. Facing the blade chi, he swept his sword diagonally, and a dark golden ripple burst forth, destroying White Nightmare's killing move. At the same time, Yi Chen's left hand was not idle either. His fingers formed a sword and pointed at the nearby White Nightmare. Go! The blood-ruined sword left its scabbard and turned into 9 sword images, shooting at White Nightmare. Imperial Sword Attack. White Nightmare was gobsmacked. He had heard of this lost sword art before. It was said that in ancient times there was an era of swordsmen. There were many swordsmen among martial artists, and the imperial sword art was one of the most legendary sword art. This sword art had an extremely high requirement on soul power. Without a soul power talent, one could not bring out the essence of this sword art. Flying swords controlled by the imperial sword art were incomparably fast. Before the enemy could even react, they would be pierced through the heart or decapitated. It was impossible to defend against. Cultivated to the highest realm, one could unleash 81 swords simultaneously, striking fear into the hearts of others and forcing them to retreat. Although Yi Chen's imperial sword art had only reached the realm of 9 swords simultaneously, it could not be looked down upon. Just the speed of the flying swords was enough to make many people suffer. Having no time to defend, White Nightmare crossed his arms and curled his body into a ball. Grayish-white chi crazily revolved around him, forming a shield of light. Ding 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 ding, rip! The majority of the 9 sword phantoms were repelled. Only the blood-ruined sword's attack power was the strongest. It instantly pierced through White Nightmare's protective Zhen Yuan and was about to strike his body. Get lost! White Nightmare's curled body stretched out, and the powerful Zhen Yuan in his body erupted like a sun, blasting away the blood-ruined sword's main body. What a powerful Zhen Yuan! Yi Chen squinted his eyes. This sword of his could already kill the majority of half-step kings. Half a month ago, the middle-aged demonic man had suffered a bit of injury when facing the imperial sword art. Who would have thought that White Nightmare's Zhen Yuan would be so much stronger than that of the middle-aged demonic man? The imperial sword art would be ineffective. After repelling the blood-ruined sword's main body, White Nightmare hastily retreated. There was a shallow sword scar on his arm, but it could only be regarded as a flesh wound. The sword chi contained within had long been forced out by his Zhen Yuan. However, Yi Chen was only at the peak of late sea of Soul Realm. If he were to advance to half-step King Realm, wouldn't he be killed in one sword strike? White Nightmare, delay him! At this moment, The fat demonic man suddenly shot a glance at White Nightmare. "What are you doing?" White Nightmare transmitted his genuine. "His companion is there, and he should be cultivating in seclusion. As long as we capture his companion, we can make him restrain himself and bring him back alive." The fat demonic man's thoughts were deeper than White Nightmare's. Capturing Yi Chen alive was more beneficial than killing Yi Chen. At this moment, he had already determined the specific location of Yi Chen's companion. "All right." White Nightmare faintly nodded. He was not an honorable person. For the sake of his goal, he would be unscrupulous. Buzz. A huge iron shield appeared in his left hand as he inwardly thought, "Close combat is my advantage. Let's see how you resist." Swish. Holding the shield, White Nightmare pounced at Yi Chen. "Dragging things out like this is not a solution. This place has already been discovered, and more demonic humans are rushing over. I'd better kill these two first." Yi Chen's killing intent was set, and he didn't want to drag things out any longer. Waning Moon. Holding the sword with both of his hands, Yi Chen slashed down with all his might. The crescent-shaped sword energy looked like a black crescent moon as it flew out, leaving a clear sword mark in the air that did not disappear for a long time. Facing this sword, White Nightmare felt as if the entire world had disappeared, and he had lost track of Yi Chen as well. It was as if he was flying in a boundless white world, and what greeted him was a boundless black sword energy. "I have to block it." White Nightmare didn't have the time to launch an attack. He raised the huge iron shield in front of him and shrunk his body behind it. As Zhen Yuan poured into the shield, it blossomed with a gray-white radiance and rapidly enlarged into a small mountain, blocking the black sword energy. Clang! Dazzling sparks flew everywhere, and cracks appeared on the shield in White Nightmare's hand. The cracks spread out from the sword mark in the center, producing a teeth-numbing metal cracking sound. If not for White Nightmare's Zhen Yuan being strong enough, the shield would have long since shattered. There was a loud bang. White Nightmare held the shield upside down as his whole body shot out. He came and went quickly, spurting out a mouthful of blood in midair. His face was extremely pale. On the other side, the fat demonic man had flown toward Murong Qingqing's seclusion location at an extreme speed the moment Yi Chen made his move. However, he didn't expect White Nightmare to be defeated so quickly. He didn't have much time left, so he had to capture Yi Chen's companions first and make them hesitate. Scram! Yi Chen sensed the fat demonic man's movements and saw that he wasn't far from Murong Qingqing's seclusion cave. Ordinary sword chi wouldn't be able to catch up. Yi Chen's expression turned cold as he extended his left index finger and pointed at the fat demonic man. It was precisely the void-shattering finger. The trajectory of the finger energy couldn't be seen, but Yi Chen's finger only pointed once, and the space around the fat demonic man immediately distorted. The boundless finger energy sent him flying, making him somersault in the air. Swoosh swoosh. With one finger attack, Yi Chen repeatedly used the void-shattering finger. Transparent traces of distortion appeared in the air, exploding around the fat demonic man. What a powerful finger energy! The fat demonic man turned pale with fright and retreated again and again, unable to get close to Murong Qingqing. Go! With a loud shout, the fat demonic man no longer had the heart to fight. He flew toward the black mist at the edge of the island and roared at White Nightmare. Yi Chen's expression turned even colder as he chased after him. However, the barrier's power was extremely mysterious. Yi Chen had only entered a few dozen meters into the black mist when he lost track of the two. Moreover, he himself was about to get lost in the black mist. Left with no choice, Yi Chen could only retreat from the black mist and return to the sky above the island. Outside the barrier, White Nightmare continuously vomited blood. We underestimated him. Seeing White Nightmare's appearance, the fat demonic man said with a gloomy expression. White Nightmare waved his hand. I'm going to meditate. Don't let anyone disturb me. His injuries were too severe. Even with a demonic human's physique, he couldn't bear it. Landing on a huge reef outside the island, White Nightmare sat cross-legged and took out a scarlet pill from his storage ring. Swallowing it, he closed his eyes and focused on healing. Chapter 775. His injuries are so heavy. The fat demonic man thought that White Nightmare had only suffered ordinary injuries. How could he have imagined that even speaking would be exhausting? Moreover, the pellet he took out was the famous blood yuan pellet of the demonic human clan. This kind of pellet was only used when suffering from incurable injuries. Even half-step demonic human kings like them only had one pellet each. After using it, they would have to wait until next year to reclaim it. This kid can't be dealt with alone. I'll have to wait for all 4 of them to arrive before using the 6-way cloud pollution. The fat demonic man inwardly said. Inside the enchantment on the island, putting away the thunder disaster sword, Yi Chen turned around and glanced at Murong Qingqing's seclusion. I wonder when Murong Qingqing will finish her seclusion and become a half-step demonic human king? Yi Chen was a bit hesitant. If Murong Qingqing still needed a few more days to finish her seclusion, the longer he stayed here, the more danger he would face. Who knew how many experts the demonic human clan had sent? Once the number of Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans reached a certain level, coupled with a few half-step demonic human kings, he would have no choice but to flee. What he was most worried about was whether the demonic human clan had sent a demonic human king. Life and death kings were the peak strength of Elysium. Only by reaching this realm could one truly move freely between heaven and earth. Life and death kings were extremely difficult to kill. Among them, even the weakest had cultivated limb rebirth. As long as their head and heart were not destroyed, they would be completely fine. At the flesh derivation realm, even if they were beaten into meat paste, they could come back to life. The most powerful was the blood rebirth realm. As long as a drop of blood remained, even the smallest drop of blood could be reborn. Being chased by a demonic human king was the most frightening thing. Forget it. I'll wait one more day. If it doesn't work, I'll wake Murong up and have her break the enchantment. Relaxing his furrowed brows, Yi Chen said inwardly. However, I only have a certain amount of confidence in breaking the barrier. I might not succeed. I should take this opportunity to comprehend the space ultimacy. Every little bit counts. Right now, I'm only one step away from reaching 40% of the space ultimacy. Maybe I can reach it. 10% of space profound was equivalent to 30% of ordinary profounds, and 40% of space profound was equivalent to 120% of ordinary profounds. This was already more powerful than the perfection of ordinary profounds. Once he reached this realm, the might of void-shattering finger alone would not be inferior to waning moon. Returning to his cave, Yi Chen continued to comprehend the space profound, trying to figure out the basics of it. In the abode where Murong was, the black light flickered more and more frequently. The white mist had already filled the entire abode. It was so hot that one could not even see their fingers if they stretched out their hand. In the center of the cave, Murong Qingqing was covered in a thick white mist, which was rising up from the top of her head in an endless stream. On the other hand, Murong Qingqing's face was abnormally red, and her lips were starting to feel dry, not as smooth and moist as before. Her blood flowed faster, evaporating the water in her body. Even though she had the perfect demonic human bloodline, she couldn't withstand the rapid loss of water. After all, she was still a flesh body, not an energy body. Water was very important to a living being. Time passed bit by bit. Murong Qingqing's body was losing more and more water. Her lips started to crack, and her long black hair started to lose its luster. Meanwhile, her breathing was getting heavier and heavier. Night fell, and a waning moon hung in the sky. Both inside and outside the enchantment were racing against time. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Suddenly, the sound of something tearing through the air could be heard in the distance. It was extremely fast. Previously, it had been indistinct, but in the blink of an eye, it could be heard clearly. "They're here." The fat demonic human revealed a happy expression. He stood up and flew into the sky. "Haha, Dolong, I didn't expect you to arrive first and even set up the hidden fog enchantment." More than 200 people flew over. The one speaking was a red-robed demonic human. He was tall and burly, with a square head and a face covered in black scales. "Hey Lin, you guys are so slow." The fat demonic human Dolong laughed. "We were a bit slow. We also had a few suspects, but they were too weak. They couldn't be the culprit, so I killed them casually." The red-robed demonic human Hey Lin didn't mind. "Yes, I killed them." Dolong nodded. "Eh? Why is White Nightmare injured?" "Who injured him?" The gray-robed demonic human beside Hey Lin exclaimed. Hearing this, Hey Lin also looked over. Dolong's expression darkened. "We've already fought with the culprit who killed our clansman. He injured White Nightmare. This person is so strong. Can you tell us in detail?" Hey Lin's expression was grave. Doran told the two of them everything that had happened. "White Nightmare almost died at his hands," Hey Lin said in a low voice. White Nightmare's strength was the strongest in their group, but even he had suffered a crushing defeat at Yi Chen's hands. One could imagine how powerful Yi Chen was. "I was planning to go in and kill the culprit right now. Seems like we'll have to wait a bit longer." The gray-robed demonic human glanced at the enchantment and said, "Right. White Nightmare is currently recovering from his injuries. The three of us don't have much assurance. Of course, with several hundred clansmen, we don't need to fear him. As long as he doesn't run, killing him won't be a problem. However, there's a chance that he might escape. Once he does, it'll take a lot more time to find him. Wait for Blue Blood and the rest to arrive. With the 6 of us working together and the 6-way cloud pollution, even a strongest half-step king won't be able to escape unscathed. And let's wait." The three chose a towering reef and sat cross-legged, calmly waiting. Time flew by, and a smear of reddish-orange appeared on the ocean. Before long, an intense ray of sunlight shone from the end of the ocean. The sky was bright. An abnormally powerful spatial ripple transmitted from Yi Chen's cave. Under this spatial ripple, the mountain peak distorted like a reflection in the water. As the water rippled, the reflection naturally rippled along with it. It was an incomparably profound scene. The frequency of the spatial ripple increased, and the mountain peak distorted more and more. Finally, pung! The entire mountain peak shattered like a mirror, folding into countless pieces and scattering into a pile. On top of the pile of rubble, Yi Chen floated, his long hair fluttering in the wind. One could see the space around his body distorting, as if he was not in this world. 40% space profound, done. Opening his eyes, Yi Chen revealed a joyous expression. For Extreme Emperor's foundation of space profound was too precious. With this foundation, Yi Chen was no longer like before, fumbling about on his own. Sometimes, he would wander aimlessly and waste a lot of time. With the help of the foundation, Yi Chen could comprehend space profound in a regular pattern. Although he might not make any progress at times, once he did, it would lead to a chain of comprehensions. 40% space profound was already equivalent to 120% of ordinary profound. Even the majority of life and death kings might not be able to compare to him in terms of space profound. After all, Yi Chen's comprehension ability was 5 times that of ordinary people, and he also had the foundation of space profound. His superiority was simply too great. After this matter, I'll start creating space profound sword arts. Only by creating my own space profound sword art can I display the full effect of space profound. Other people's profound martial skills were others in the end, and their perception would not be as deep. Nobody could understand their own profound martial skills as well. Murong's side seems to have made great progress. Floating in the air, Yi Chen sensed a powerful demonic ripple coming from Murong Qingqing. This demonic ripple was no longer at sea of Soul Realm, but close to half-step King Realm. Evidently, Murong Qingqing was about to break through, perhaps in the next moment. "Haha, you're all here." Just as Yi Chen exited his seclusion, a new situation occurred outside the enchantment. Another group of demonic humans rushed over, 202 in number. Adding the others, all the experts dispatched by demonic humans had arrived. "We were just waiting for you." Black Scales let out a sigh of relief and smiled. "What? The person inside the enchantment is very troublesome. Even the 4 of you can't handle him?" Of the 2 half-step demonic human kings, one had light blue skin while the other had a wooden expression. Sensing the problem, the blue-skinned half-step demonic human king said, "He's much more troublesome than you think. But, now that everyone is here, he won't be able to escape even if he grows wings. He can only obediently wait to be captured." White Nightmare's treatment is almost complete. At this moment, the fat demonic human Duolong said, "It's a good time. About half the time it takes to brew a cup of tea later." White Nightmare, who was sitting cross-legged on a reef, opened his eyes. Surging Zhen Yuan rushed out, shattering the surrounding reef and reversing the waves. He stood up and flew to the side of the group, then said with killing intent, "Let's do it. Let's go." Duolong signaled the Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans to open a hole in the enchantment. Swish! Their figures flickered as they entered, and the other Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans followed behind, flying in batches. The enchantment closed, leaving only 108 Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans in charge of maintaining the enchantment. 6 half-step demonic human kings, and 500 Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans. Yi Chen's complexion was unsightly. He didn't expect so many experts to arrive. 1 White Nightmare was already not weak, and 5 half-step demonic human kings were no small matter. Moreover, 500 Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans were already a medium-sized force, capable of sweeping across half-step kings. Yi Chen was astonished, but White Nightmare and the rest were even more astonished. They were not astonished by Yi Chen, but by Murong Qingqing's seclusion location. An extremely pure demonic power ripple was transmitted from there. It should be known that demonic power could only be cultivated by perfect demonic human bloodline. Humans and ordinary demonic humans simply couldn't cultivate it. Could this kid's companion be a perfect demonic human? This was simply unimaginable. Moreover, from the demonic power ripple, the other party seemed to be in the process of breaking through. Once a perfect demonic human broke through to the half-step king realm, they would become a perfect half-step king.